Chapter 101. It's real one. Rayon. The dark elves all looked confused. It was because the word that Cal said with a serious expression after having Choi hand close the door was a word that they were not familiar with. It is okay for me to appear, the dark elf, Sean, flinched. He heard a young voice coming from next to Cal, but he could not see anything. Ho, ho, ho. Sean turned his head after hearing the mayor laughing. He could see the mayor continuing to laugh as if he was shocked while wiping the sweat off of his palms with his handkerchief. Was it for real? Was it really a dragon? He heard the voice one more time. Tada. It appeared behind Cal. Oh my God. Tasha covered her mouth with both of her hands. Why are you not coming out? None of them heard Cal's voice as their focus was on the face that was peeking out from behind Cal. Rayon only peeked his head out from behind Cal. Cal let out a sigh before taking a step to the side. As he did that, Rayon was slowly revealed to the dark elves. No, this. Tasha was so shocked that she was struggling with her words. She turned around to look at Sean. She wanted to ask her friend if she was hallucinating. However, Sean was frozen stiff, like he was sleeping with his eyes open. Thinking that she wouldn't be able to get any info out of Sean, Tasha quickly turned her gaze to her grandfather. The dark elf mayor was calm. The person who seemed like the one who would be the most shocked in this situation was calm, even if he was still sweating profusely. Grandfather Tasha had to stop speaking. The dark elf mayor started to speak to Rayon with a pious expression. I cannot greet Dragon Nim while standing on my two legs. The old man calmly tried to kneel. Cal let out a sigh at the mess in front of him. He knew that elves were crazy for dragons, but he didn't expect the dark elves to be the same. But it's not like I can lie when he said his elemental has met a dragon. Elementals, as creatures that have a strong affinity with nature, were very sensitive to things like mana, and thus were rarely wrong. If the dark elf mayor's elemental has really seen a dragon and confirmed that there was a draconic aura around Cal, the dark elf mayor would never believe him, even if he claimed he didn't have a dragon. That was how accurate elementals were with auras they have experienced at least once. With this being about a draconic aura, Cal had no choice. Cal looked toward the door to see Choi Han standing there like a guard with an awkward smile on his face. The person who was wearing a robe, so Cal could not tell anything about her, was just standing there like a scarecrow. At that moment, Rayon stood in front of the three dark elves. What is he trying to do? Cal looked toward Rayon with curiosity. I am the great Rayon Meru? Egu. Cal could see Rayon puffing up his chest. He took care of his self-introduction very well. I am a grand total of 4 years old this year. Was there a need to tell them your age? Oh, great Dragon Nim? The dark elf mayor was already kneeling and responding to Rayon's every word like they were the words of a god. What to do about this? Cal was starting to get a headache. However, Rayon's introduction was not over yet, and I am taking care of Cal Henatus because he is a weakling. I don't think that's the case. Cal let out a deep sigh. He walked over to Rayon, who seemed like he would continue to share useless information, and petted Rayon's head. Rayon finally stopped talking. Cal looked over toward Tasha and started to speak. It looks like you'll need to help the Mayor Nim back up. Ah! Tasha let out a gasp like she was finally coming to her senses. The mayor started to speak at that time. No, I cannot do that. The Dragon Nim that I met last time said that standing in front of him was like asking for a fight. I do not wish to fight with Dragon Nim. What kind of dragon did he meet? Cal wondered if the mayor was actually feeling fear instead of respect right now. You can stand. I do not like things like that. However, the mayor instantly stood up after hearing Rayon's response. Cal raised both hands and clapped once. Clap. That clap got everyone's attention on Cal, who then started to speak. Let's all calm down first. Cal pointed toward the couches like it was his office. Everybody, please sit down. Cal avoided the chair reserved for the mayor and walked over to a 3-person couch before he sat down. The mayor followed behind Cal with a calm expression. He was also no longer sweating. He then started to speak to Rayon. Dragon Nim, please sit over here. It was the seat Cal had left open for the mayor. Cal looked toward the mayor in disbelief as Rayon responded to the mayor. I don't want to. You sit there. Rayon flew over and sat down next to Cal. He then put his head on Cal's knee as if it belonged there. The mayor immediately sat down to listen to Rayon. Cal finally felt like things were calming down, so he asked Sean, "Can you bring me a cup of water? I am thirsty." "I will do so right away." Sean looked like he was the calmest person in the room, but he was the palest one as well. Cal put a hand on Sean's back and started to speak. "The dragon is a secret." "A secret." Rayon echoed from behind Cal. Sean bowed his head and responded back, "I promise on my relationship with the elementals that I will keep it a secret." A dark elf promising on their relationship with elementals was similar to a vow of death. An elf who could not interact with elementals would have to live in despair for the rest of their lives. Rayon looked toward the mayor and Tasha, who then made the same vow. "Dragon Nim, I promise on my relationship with the elementals that I will keep it a secret." "I also promise on my relationship with the elementals that I will keep it a secret." Cal finally seemed to be relieved as he leaned down into the couch. Sean soon brought not just a glass of water but a fancy snack tray. The mayor took a sip of tea before he started to speak. "My name is Obante. My name is Cal Henetus." The mayor was still being very formal with Cal. He had no choice, since Cal was with a dragon. Furthermore, they seemed to have a pretty close relationship with each other. The dragon that Mayor Obante had met in the past was a temperamental one who was very egotistical. That was the only experience Obante had with dragons. "Young Master Cal, does Alberu know?" Seeing the mayor call the crown prince's name so casually helped Cal understand that it was very likely that the mayor was related to Alberu. "His Highness does not know. Ho Alberu got to know such a precious person while keeping me in the dark." "I'm guessing we cannot tell even Alberu? I will take care of that." Cal was telling Obante to keep his vow. Obante looked disappointed but still nodded his head and continued to speak. "Of course, I will definitely keep my vow." "Young Master Cal, I heard that you haven't been given a thorough explanation of what the item is." "That is correct. For your reference, it is in the shape of a bracelet." His 521 years of experience must be worth something as the mayor got right to the point. Unlike Tasha and Sean, who still seemed wary of Rayon. However, unfortunately, Cal had no intentions of learning more. "Mayor Nim, I do not need to know." His face showed that he had no desire or curiosity about the item. That expression made Obante speechless. Cal then asked Obante a question. "Is it okay for multiple humans to touch it?" "Why do you ask?" A suspicious gaze appeared on Obante's face. "One of the people with me is able to give the god of death's blessing." Obante's expression quickly brightened. Cal noticed this, so he started to smile as he added on, "I hope to bless that bracelet every day until I can hand it over to His Highness. That is why there will be at least 2 people who will need to touch it. I must thank you if it is for that reason. It will reduce the chances of Alberu getting caught. It will also give him an opportunity to escape if something dangerous happens." The excommunicated priestess Cage's blessing was not weak. Even though the Church of the God of Death did not have a holy maiden or a saint, Cal estimated that Cage's blessing was probably just as effective as the Sun God Twin's blessings. Might as well prepare thoroughly. Of course. "I will leave it to you, young Master Cal." Obante explained the current situation to Cal. "The item will be completed tomorrow. Then we should be able to leave any time after tomorrow." "That might not be possible." Obante had an awkward expression on his face. "Grandpa, did something happen?" Tasha, who wanted to leave as quickly as possible, spoke up to ask. "Young Master Cal, I don't know if you've heard, but there are 2 times a year that Dead Monner rises through the sand. The timing of it is always changing to the point that even we only become aware of it as it gets closer. The underground city's ceiling, which was supporting the desert, allowed the Dark Elves to find out about the Dead Mana a few days in advance." "Is it that time?" The mayor nodded his head at Cal's question. "We expect it to happen 2 days later for a total of 3 days. It was dangerous for humans during that time. It would be fine for Tasha to cross the desert, but it was better for Cal's group to leave after about a week." "Is it in liquid form?" "It is a gas." That made it even worse, since the Dead Mana would be floating around everywhere. Not only was it not healthy, it could be seriously dangerous if they inhaled the dead mana into their bloodstream. Cal let out a groan and started to think. Obante seemed apologetic after seeing Cal's expression. Cal then started to speak. Then I guess we have to play for a week. Yes, thank you for your excuse me. Do you have a tourist map of the underground city? Obante, who was looking at the casual Cal with disbelief, finally nodded his head after a while. Of course, I will tell Sean to be your guide. The Dark Elves had made a map for the visitors when they created the inn. Cal nodded his head before he looked toward the corner and asked, "By the way, who is that person?" "Ah, that kid is." The human wearing a black robe was quietly sitting in the corner. "That child is the one who is creating the bracelet." She was a human who was making an item with a dark attribute. Cal held himself back from smiling, found one. He had found a human who was an expert on the human body and death. I called her to explain about the item. Obante could not continue to speak. He seemed to be hesitating. He slowly peeked toward Tasha, which let Cal know that the mayor had something to talk to Tasha about. It was at that moment. What seems to be the problem? For a moment, Cal thought that a god or an emperor was speaking. It was said in that kind of tone. Cal lowered his head only to see a dragon trying to look majestic while sitting there with his head perked up. However, he was still so short that he did not look majestic at all. Dragon Nim, you see. Obante still did not dare to speak. At that moment, someone else started to speak. "I am curious about the world." The voice was indifferent without any emotion, like the voice of a GPS. It was the person wearing the black robe. Cal's gaze headed over to the black robe. "I wish to see the outside world." "What?" However, her words shocked both Sean and Tasha. Sigh. Obante let out a sigh and wiped his eyes with his handkerchief. He looked like he had instantly turned about 100 years older. Tasha started to speak at that moment. She seemed to know the black-robed person. "Mary, what are you talking about?" Mary seemed to be the woman's name. Tasha looked toward Obante with an angry expression. "Grandfather." She seemed to be angry, however, she flinched after taking a look at Cal and Rayon. She bit down on her lips, as this would seem like they were preventing someone who wanted to go outside from going out. But it wasn't a lie. Sean started to speak. "Mary, you know that it is dangerous." The black-robed woman responded back. "That is why I plan to go alone." "You definitely cannot go alone." Tasha jumped up and raised her voice. Mary could be in danger even if she was with her, so how could she let her go alone? Absolutely not. Silence filled the room after her outburst. Nobody was able to speak. However, a confused voice filled the room. "Why can't she go? That human is very strong. She is even stronger than a mage I know." Ho! Cal was amused internally. "This girl is stronger than Rosalind." Mary raised her head. Of course, they still couldn't see her face as she was wearing a robe with a large hood. Mary turned to look toward Cal and Rayon. She then started to pull her sleeve up. "Mary?" Sean reached out in shock, but she was faster. Mary managed to pull one of her sleeves completely up before Sean stopped her. Her arm appeared underneath the light. Choi Han, who was at the door, let out a groan. Sigh. Sean put his head in his hands. Tasha looked back and forth between Cal and Choi Han with an anxious expression. Cal's eyes couldn't help but become cloudy as he looked at the arm that was revealed. The arm and hand that were revealed seemed to be covered in what seemed to be burns or black lines that looked like spider webs. It was a terrible scar that would make anyone flinch. Cal just stared at the injury. He was now certain that she would be able to make an arm for Ron. She was really a necromancer, a black spiderweb human. That was the term that people used for the necromancers in the past. Chapter 102. It's real too. Mary, you can't do that in front of people you don't know. Sigh. Tasha let out a sigh and grabbed Mary's arm. She then carefully pulled the robe down in order to cover the black lines back up. At the same time, she continued to observe Cal and Choi Han's expressions. Tasha was holding Mary's hand tightly. "This, you see?" Tasha was unable to hide her anxiety. No, she had been in a state of shock since Rayon appeared, but this was more despair than shock. "Tasha." Cal looked right into Tasha's eyes and calmed her down. "I don't plan to tell anybody, so do not worry. We are already all in the same boat." Tasha closed her mouth that had been repeatedly opening and closing without making a noise. She remembered what Alberu had said about Cal. "Auntie, he may be rude, but he keeps his word. I can't trust him, but I can at least rely on the bastard." In the end, it meant that Alberu trusted Cal, even if he would not directly say that. Tasha started to agree with Alberu the longer she interacted with Cal. At that moment, Mary started to speak. "I will also not speak about Dragon Nim. Since I cannot make a vow of elementals, I will vow with my life instead." Cal had a small smile on his face that quickly disappeared. He should not have to worry about Rayon's secret because she put her life on the line. Tasha then heard her grandfather starting to speak. "Young Master Cal, do you know about necromancers?" "I know as much as any other person." Well, he knew more than the average person based on what he had read in the novel. Necromancers referred to people who used dead mana to control dead creatures to fight. They also had scars on their bodies that were impossible to hide, even with magic. Just like Mary's arm they just saw, their entire body is covered with black veins that look like spider webs. The black spider web human. It was the side effect of using dead mana that living beings should not be able to use. That might have been another reason that the necromancers were hunted down, in addition to their use of corpses to fight. They were deemed to be useless. But there were no useless occupations in the world. Everything had a time and place that they would be useful. "My name is Mary." Mary started to speak again. "I am 25 this year." She introduced herself following Rayon's style. Cal quietly listened while Rayon was looking at the black robe with curiosity. "I have lived in this city of life for the past 15 years. I remember running away into the desert with my family when I was 10 years old. The necromancer Mary was, as expected, one of the people who ran away from the village. That is the only thing I remember." Cal was not able to understand what she meant right away. "We found Mary 15 years ago on the day the dead mana rose to the surface." Cal turned his head to see Sean continuing to speak with a stiff expression. "I was the one who found her." Sean recalled what had happened 15 years ago. "As we mentioned before, dead mana rises into the land of death twice a year. We go up to the surface every night when we know that the time is near in order to quickly bring down any humans who are running away into the desert. Since most of them are malnourished, even the slightest amount of dead mana can be critical. But we cannot get everyone." Tasha started to frown as she added on. "Tasha was there when Sean found Mary. 15 years ago was when the highest amount of dead mana came up to the land of death. It was the most we have ever seen in the past few hundred years, at about 20 times the norm." Cal could imagine what it was like, as well as how Mary had become a necromancer. He then started to speak. "That must have been where you found Miss Mary." "She was found in the land of death with 20 times the normal amount of dead mana, when even the smallest amount would be deadly for humans. Yes, she had absorbed a significant amount of dead mana by the time we found her, but she managed to survive." Sean tried to answer, but someone else answered first. "It was Mary." "Yes, I managed to survive, even though it was extremely painful." Cal could not sense any emotion in Mary, even though she was saying it was painful. It felt like all of my veins were popping. "In order to survive, I needed to learn to control the dead mana while dealing with the intense pain going through my body. When given with the options of being a black mage or a necromancer, I chose to become a necromancer. The 10-year-old Mary needed to become a necromancer in order to survive. That is why I am happy that I am in less pain." Tasha lowered her head like it was difficult to listen further, in less pain. Mary phrased it like this because necromancers lived a life of pain for absorbing dead mana that God did not allow for humans. However, I have no memories of my life before that. Cal now understood what she meant when she said running away into the desert was all that she remembered. "I was running across the desert. My family members started to fall one by one behind me, but I continued to run. That is the only thing I remember. I don't remember where I used to live, nor even the faces of my family members." Mary remembered just one thing. "Mary, keep running. Don't look back, just run." She only remembered her mom's voice and the feeling of the sand underneath her feet as she continued to run. She was only able to remember her name thanks to her mother's voice. "I have been in pain, but I have been happy and very thankful. the emotionless voice continued to speak. Mary was happy and thankful to be here in the city of death, no, the city of life. She was also thankful for Obante, who was trying to keep her in the city, as well as Sean and Tasha, who had saved her and continued to look after her for the past 15 years. However, she heard her mom's voice every night. I know that humans do not like necromancers, but I am still curious about the human world. The majority of the people in the city called the human world hell. They also said that humans despised necromancers, but she was still curious. No, she felt empty inside. I don't want to bring harm to anyone, so I will go alone. This forgotten first 10 years of her life continued to haunt her and cause her pain. That was why she wanted to figure out what happened during those first 10 years. She wanted to recover her memories, and something was telling her that she needed to go to the human world to do that. She pulled up the sleeve on the arm that Tasha was not holding. The ugly scars appeared again. I heard that people find these scars to be disgusting. As such, I just have to make sure these scars aren't revealed and that I avoid the temples. I have prepared a lot for this trip. Mary's head, well, the hood of the black robe, was facing Cal and Rayon, but she was talking to the 3 dark elves. Tasha just stood there without being able to grab the other arm. She recalled the child who was having a hard time breathing in the black desert filled with dead mana. I need to run. Ugh, need to run. That was what the child was mumbling as black lines started to appear all over her body. Tasha could see that the child's parents were dying in the distance when she picked up the struggling girl from the sand. The child had run quite far. She then won against the dead mana and survived. I am curious about the world. Obante could not say anything. It was because he knew that she was not actually curious about the world. He knew that she just wanted to find her forgotten memories that continued to haunt her every night. At that moment, he could see something starting to move. It was Rayon. Rayon flew toward Mary and stopped in front of her. He quietly looked at the black robe for a while before starting to shout. "You are amazing for managing to live. Of course, you are not great and mighty like me, but you are still amazing." Cal agreed with Rayon. He started to speak in a calm tone that was very different than Rayon's excited shout. "You are amazing. It is fine as long as you manage to live. Right, I accept that you are a slightly amazing human." However, Rayon had more to say. "However, if this weak human somehow got as strong as my front paw and went off on a journey while saying he was not going to get hurt, yet came back hurt, I would destroy this world. Isn't that too much? Shouldn't you heal me first?" There were a lot of things Cal wanted to ask, but he was unable to say them out loud. It was because he agreed with Rayon to a certain degree. Mary also did not want the people around her to get hurt. That was why she understood Rayon, as well as the Dark Elves, on why they did not want her to leave. That was why she had waited for 5 years after turning 20, but she was still curious about the world. That is why I will not go until I get permission. Once I do go, I will definitely come back within 1 year without getting caught by anyone. She sounded very serious as she said that. Obante wiped the sweat off of his palms as he weakly answered. "Later, let's talk about it later." She was the only necromancer in this city, no, the entire Western continent. Obante was the one who had opened that path for her. He could not bear to watch her die, so he took out one of the relics he had found in the past and gave it to her. "Yes, sir, I understand." Obante turned his gaze to Cal and Rayon once Mary answered. "I will let you know when the dead mana is gone. Please let us know if we can do anything to help make your stay during this time better." "Thank you very much, Mayor Nim." Cal shook hands with Obante before getting up. Sean and Mary got up as well. However, there was one person still sitting down. Tasha. Tasha got up in shock after hearing Obante call her name. She seemed to have a lot weighing on her mind. Cal ignored this and headed out of the mayor's office. Rayon returned to being invisible while the Dark Elves and Mary pretended not to know anything. The mayor stayed in his office while Tasha and Sean led the way for Cal's group. Choi Han was naturally standing right behind Cal, while the necromancer Mary stood next to Choi Han, quietly walking with her robe dragging on the ground. "Mary?" The hood of black robe raised when Mary turned her head and looked up at Cal. Cal asked as he continued to walk at a casual pace. Can you make me an arm? Do you mean an arm for the human body? Cal gently answered her emotionless question. Yes, a left arm. Do you need it for something? Yes, I do. I understand. I will make it for you. Cal looked toward Mary, who did not ask about compensation or a reward, and asked, What is it you want to see in the human world? Sean and Tasha flinched at his question. Mary answered without any hesitation. I am not sure. Mary really did not know. I cannot imagine the human world since I have no memories of it and have only read about it in books. But I feel like there will be a lot of things I would want to see once I get there. I guess that makes sense. Cal agreed with Mary's logic. How could you want to see something specifically if you didn't know what was there? Maybe she'll know what she wants to see once she goes to the surface. At that moment, Rayon started to speak in Cal's mind. I understand that feeling. There was nothing Rayon wanted to see while he was in that cave for 4 years. It was because he had not seen anything yet. He just wanted to be free. There was nothing else he was looking forward to. She is an amazing human. Rayon continued to praise the necromancer Mary since earlier. She seems like a good person. It was Rayon's appeal to Cal that he wanted her to go with them. He wanted her to see the world, of course. She is not as good as you, weak human, but she is like us. She is a good person and has managed to live through such pain. She is an amazing human. Cal pretended not to hear Rayon as usual. 2 days later, Cal was laying down on a couch in the restaurant of the inn while staring up at the ceiling. This is no joke. Rumble. A loud noise accompanied what felt like an earthquake. However, it was not too severe. Young Master Nim, it looks like the dead mana is about to rise. Seems that way. Cal took a sip of the lemonade Ron handed him. This underground city even had lemons. They had every kind of fruit down here. Beecrox made some ice cream and put it on the table in front of Cal and the invisible Rayon. The innkeeper was looking at Beecrox like he really wanted to hire Beecrox as the inn's chef. I am getting restless. Cal ignored Rayon and looked toward the inn door. Beecrox, go bring me another cup of lemonade. Excuse me? Young Master Nim, I will do it. Beecrox asked in confusion while Ron stepped up to say that he would do it. They heard a small bell chiming as someone entered the inn. Ron, you sit down. It was a person completely covered in a black robe. Mary had entered the inn to visit Cal and walked over toward him without any hesitation. Beecrox, go bring a cup of lemonade for our guest. Beecrox looked toward the completely covered person with confusion. Cal continued to speak to help Beecrox understand. This is the person who will make your father a new arm. Beecrox stiffened up. Even Ron, who had his usual benign smile, couldn't help but change expressions. Cal looked toward the black robe in front of him and got right to the point. Mary. Cal liked free things, money, and taking things from people, but he was not a full-on scam artist. He, as Kim Rock-Soo, believed that he needed to appropriately reward people who did good things for him. Cal planned to give such a reward to the person who would make a new arm for the dual dagger-wielding assassin, Ron. She deserved a good reward for helping out one of his people. I will give you a place to stay for 6 months. All right. Good job, weak human, Rayon shouted in Cal's mind. Chapter 103. It's real 3. What do you mean? Mary's robotic voice was slightly shaking. I am saying I will give you a place to stay until winter. However, the place you will be staying is not a village or city where humans live as you wish. The innkeeper slowly walked toward the door and locked it. His concerned gaze was focused on Mary. Cal looked toward the innkeeper before continuing to speak. However, you can spend your time looking at the real sky and the beauty of the surface. Although it would be in the forest of darkness that was full of monsters, it still had the beauty of nature and the beautiful sky that you could not see in this underground city. I do not wish to burden you. That was Mary's answer after a long duration of silence. The word burden made Cal start to smile. You are probably saying that because you still don't know me very well. Cal sat down and looked up at Mary, only to see that she was wearing a black mask underneath her robe as well. He continued to speak to the girl whom he had never actually made eye contact with. I don't ever do anything that will burden me. Why would he do something crazy like turning the churches against him? He was offering this to her because he was able to give her a situation that would let her be on land without being caught by the churches. As for the next 6 months after that, Mary had said that she was going to travel for a year. Cal, naturally, remembered what she had said. I will help you so that you can escape from the Church of the Sun God at least once without dying. The Black Hood flinched, as if Mary had jerked her head in shock underneath. Is that possible? The innkeeper interjected into the conversation. Cal had heard from Sean that this old man was the one who treated Mary the most like his own family after Tasha had left. Is that really possible? Cal looked toward the old man, asking him with a shaky voice, and answered, A dragon's dead, Mana. I will give that to you. However, his words were directed at Mary. If her strength was at Rosalind's level, and she needed to avoid the priests of the Church of the Sun God, all he had to do was make her stronger. It was only fair for him to do that much for someone who would make Ron a new arm. Young Master Nim. Ron, who had been quietly listening all this time, interjected. Cal raised his hand to stop him. Stop talking. But young Master Nim. A dragon's dead mana is too precious. I am fine, Beecrox. Cal turned away from Ron and called out to Beecrox, who was still blankly staring at space. Didn't I tell you to go get some lemonade? Ah, hurry up. Yes, sir. Beecrox avoided his father's gaze and rushed toward the kitchen. Cal offered Mary a seat. Sit wherever you like. He seemed so relaxed that people would probably think he owned the place. First of all, a voice started to speak from inside of the Black Hood. I will think about it after making the arm. The Black Hood then turned toward a different direction. Mary was now looking at Ron. Ron just stood there and let the eerie black robe stare at him. The GPS-like but emotionless voice started to speak again. It looks like your muscles are very well developed. Based on the balance between your right arm and your body, I would say you are someone who uses both arms. I will need to pay special attention while making your arm. We will probably need to put it on and test it out a couple times to get it just right. How long will it take? Probably about 1 or 2 months. Cal leisurely took a sip of his lemonade. He seemed to be as relaxed as someone laying on a sand by the beach. He then said his conclusion out loud. Then we can do it in your residence up on the surface. Ron works where you will be staying anyway. My mind is chaotic and complicated right now. The emotionless voice continued to speak. It seems like a very complicated problem. I do not wish to be a burden, but at the same time, I feel like it should be fine because you are very strong. She was probably talking about Choi Han and Rayon. She's right. The good girl is smart. She will not be a burden as long as I am around. I just need to destroy anything in our way. Cal just let Rayon talk as usual without listening. Dragons were naturally this scary. I will come back later. Sure, but I am leaving in a few days, so come back before then with your bags packed. Cal stood up and headed toward the stairwell to the second floor, as he had nothing left to say. Ah, drink some lemonade before you go. You should know our chef's abilities, since you'll all see each other quite often. Mary had no reaction to that as she continued to watch Cal. Cal did not pay attention to her and just headed toward his bedroom. Ron followed behind him. Young Master Nim. It was rare to see Ron like this, without his benign smile. Who is that person and what is going on? Ron. Cal arrived in front of his room and turned the doorknob. Cal entered through the door and started to speak. It's okay to accept this much. Cal didn't even turn to look at Ron before closing the door. He then quietly chuckled after hearing the voice that finally came from the other side of the door after a long time. Young Master Nim, should I bring up some snacks? Yeah, sure. Bring me something to drink, too. Cal then added on. Anything but lemonade. Cal was tired of lemonades. The knight who was guarding the gate into the desert at the village next to the land of death in the Karo Kingdom's Dubori territory was not very happy today. Crazy bastard, bossing me around like this because he's been a knight for just 3 years longer than I have. The other knight was using his seniority to make this knight take the early guard duty. The soldiers kept quiet and avoided the angry knight. They would probably end up dead if they ratted the knight out. He also takes all the money, too. The money they made from people while guarding the gate was all monopolized by the senior knight. He did buy them drinks every so often, but how good would the alcohol in a small village like this be? He took those 2 gold coins for himself the other day, too. Son of a bitch, you'll be in big trouble one day for taking. Tap, oh, something had hit the knight on the head. The knight started to shout while rubbing the back of his head. Damn it, what the hell, who threw huh? The item that hit his head and fell to the ground was a very small and round item. It was a gold coin. Money had fallen from the sky. The knight quickly picked it up and looked around. He did not see anything, even when he looked up at the sky. What the? The knight first put the gold coin in his pocket and glared at the soldiers. He was telling them to keep their mouths shut. I guess you kept your promise in the end. Cal got on the carriage they left with the innkeeper at the village and answered Tasha's question. I'm just disappointed that it is not the same night as last time. I will give you another gold coin if I return alive. The night that Cal had said that to was, unfortunately, not here at this early hour. I should have just jumped the wall last time, too. You probably wouldn't have been able to save the two peasants if you did that last time, right, young Master Nim? Cal pretended not to hear Tasha. He was annoyed that Tasha kept trying to talk to him. However, Tasha looked at the cold Cal with a warm gaze. It's cool in here. It was the most comfortable in this carriage that was fortified with magic. Cal leaned into the chair and turned his head. A black blob was stuck against the window looking outside. Right next to it was an excited black dragon. Isn't it amazing? Yes, Rayon Nim, it is very amazing. Is that the village that I used to live in? Even I do not know that. Is that so? But I have never seen a village like this. It is so amazing. Rayon puffed up his chest after hearing the stiff voice. The real sky does not seem to have an end. It is difficult to fathom. It is so cool. You can look forward to the night sky as well. That is even cooler. It is the coolest if you see it at our house. I will also take you around the forest of darkness. Thank you, Rayon Nim. Cal turned his head away after seeing Rayon and Mary chatting with each other. Why are you looking at me like that? Tasha was looking at Cal with a gaze full of admiration. Cal turned away from the very awkward gaze and shouted out the door. Let's go. The carriage started to move. Cal pulled up his sleeve and pointed his wrist toward Cage. Miss Cage. Cage, who was sitting next to him quietly, cautiously reached both of her hands out and gently placed them around Cal's wrist. She then started to speak in a friendly voice. Bring forth the power of death to bring death and despair to those who wish to harm you. Your enemy shall wander in the darkness for eternity and will not be able to stop you. Your enemy will lose their eyes, their legs, their hearing, and their senses as they wander aimlessly for all eternity. Cal just quietly looked outside while listening to the vicious chant. An eerie feeling surrounded his wrist, well, the bracelet on his wrist to be specific. I am finished. Cage, is the blessing of death always like this? Cage responded back in an excited voice. Of course, it is a blessing from the god of death. Did you expect it to be gentle? That was the correct answer. Cal was worried that the bracelet might become a cursed item after being blessed like this for a few days. However, that would likely just benefit the crown prince even more, so he just let Cage continue to bless the bracelet. Are there any stronger blessings? I plan to increase the strength of the blessing every day. I see. She really was a crazy priestess. Cal was relieved and continued to stare out the window as the carriage continued to move toward the capital. Is this my room? Yes, sir. You can stay here tonight, young Master Nim. Cal avoided Tasha's overly thankful gaze. Cal's group was staying in the same inn at the village near the capital, like last time. Cal opened the door to his room. Click, and then, bang, he closed the door right back with a bang. Cal looked toward Tasha, who was smiling. Cal let out a deep sigh before opening the door again. He slowly dragged his feet as he entered the room. Tasha quickly closed the door behind him. At the same time, a familiar voice started to speak. This is not your room. Of course not, Your Highness. The Crown Prince, Albrew Crossman, was smiling at Cal. He had a fancy feast prepared in order to greet Cal. I did not know that you would come all the way out here to meet me. I am in a bit of a hurry. Hurry, Cal looked toward Albrew, who casually added on. Tunka became the commander-in-chief of the Whipper Kingdom. Tunka's group had started to move after laying low for the past few months. The fact that Tunka was commander-in-chief meant that the Whipper Kingdom's royalty had ended up in Tunka's hands. Albrew could hear Cal's indifferent voice. They've gotten a one-way ticket to hell. Albrew started to smirk. Indeed, although it has nothing to do with us right now. I guess he doesn't know your highness stole all of the remaining mages. Of course not. How could the Whipper Kingdom know when even our own people don't know much about it? Cal and Alberu made eye contact. Cling! The bracelet fell from Cal's hand and landed in Alberu's palm. Sizzle. A noise that sounded like water hitting fire could be heard as a black smoke surrounded Alberu's body. Click. Alberu put the bracelet on his wrist. Your Highness, this appearance of yours is quite wonderful too. The quarter-dark elf Alberu's true appearance appeared in front of Cal. The blonde hair and blue eyes disappeared and were replaced with brown hair and brown eyes. Alberu's skin was definitely darker than most people as well. Even though he was only a quarter-dark elf, the dark elf characteristics were very visible. It is probably because of the dead mana he absorbed. Thanks to that, more of his nature as a dark elf was developed than his human side. Why are you asking such an obvious question? Everything looks good when you are handsome. That was actually true. The blessing of the god of death. I'm relieved. Alberu could feel the power inside the bracelet. He could also feel the impact of the blessings Cal gave to him as a gift as well. He shared one piece of information with Cal as he continued to sense the power inside the bracelet. Tunka is said to be going to the Empire in the Whipper Kingdom's heir's place. Cal started to frown. Sounds like it will be a mess. I agree. Alberu then asked Cal, will you be spending time at home? Yes, Your Highness, that is indeed the plan. It was at that moment. Rayon started to speak in Cal's mind again. Ah, talking about that idiot Tunka made me remember. The seed is starting to sprout. The seed from the magic tower was now sprouting. What will you be doing? I plan to farm a bit and rest. His network, the seed, money, he planned to grow them all. Of course, he would just be giving orders and not doing any of the actual work. I don't think anybody would believe you will be farming when you have such an expression on your face. Alberu felt iffy at Cal's face. He could tell Cal had a lot of different plots forming in his head. However, he quickly returned to the blonde hair and blue eyes appearance and said goodbye to Cal. He needed to quickly head over to the Empire. Cal soon left the capital and headed back to Harris Village in the Forest of Darkness. After spending over a month in that rural village, Cal woke up to listen to a message that Alberu had left him. He did not pick up the call last night because Alberu had called in the middle of the night. Just what the hell have you been doing? Alberu's voice sounded quite chaotic. Why does Commander Tunka call you his friend? Why are you the hero of the jungle? Even one of the Breck Kingdom's princes was asking about you and his sister. Everybody stealthily came over to ask about you before leaving. You're driving me crazy. Cal just blankly stared outside while listening to Alberu's rant. Ron appeared at that moment and handed him a cup of water as well as some messages. We received contact from the whale tribe. It was a letter from Witira. He received this letter from the north just as the weather was starting to get cooler. So annoying. Ron pretended not to hear Cal's mumbling as he continued on. We also received a message from home. They were asking if you could come home so that they could see you, since it is festival time soon. Multiple voices started to speak at once in the originally quiet bedroom. Festival? Did you say festival? Festival. Rayon, On, and Hong, who had all been asleep in the corner of the bedroom, suddenly shot up and rushed over. Cal ignored the puppy dog eyes they were giving him and laid back down on the bed. So annoying. At that moment, he heard the last part of Alberu's recording. Alberu sighed before saying one last thing. Anyways, I am coming back with one of the Breck Kingdom's princes. Oh, and the Pope of the Church of the Sun God is dead. Huh? The Breck Kingdom's prince was fine because he just needed to tell Rosalind. But it was what Alberu said afterward that caught Cal's attention. The criminals are the twins who were the church's holy maiden and saint. They are said to be on the run, but nobody knows where they went. What a mess. What a total mess. Click. That was the end of the recording. Cal and Ron made eye contact with each other. Contact Miss Rosalind. Cal continued on. Let's just ignore the rest. Young Master Nim, you are getting wiser as you get older. Chapter 104. Forgot about it 1. Are you ignoring the festival too, human? Rayon looked toward Cal. On and Hong looked up at him with similar expressions as well. Cal did not even look at the smiling trio as he continued to speak to Ron. I'll go back home 2 days from now. Yes, young Master Nim, you'll need to hurry if you want to show the children the festival. Stop saying useless things and go bring Miss Rosa in. Yes, sir. Ron had a benign and mischievous smile on his face as he left the room. Cal ignored the smiling children as he got up from the bed. Human, are you getting ready to leave? We are not leaving right now. All right. I will return after letting people know that we are leaving. Rayon flew out the open window, and On and Hong jumped out behind him. The 3 children were headed toward the forest of darkness. Cal did not care what they were doing. Rosalind soon arrived, and Cal delivered the message to Rosalind. He started with how one of the Breck Kingdom's princes had asked Alberu about her, and then about how they asked about him. He then told Rosalind that Alberu was returning with that prince. Miss Rosalind, I asked you to come so that I could share that news with you. Once he was finished, he could see Rosalind smiling gently. It must be the 4th prince. Is that so? He's a total bitch that probably left his courage behind in a dragon's lair. Leave what where? Cal had never heard Rosalind talk like this before. He whined about everything ever since he was a little boy. Really? He played along for now. Yes, that was why I always nagged at him. He might not have known because he was a prince, but we don't live in a world where you can get what you want simply by whining. Rosalind had a refreshing smile on her face. That is why I taught him about the world. Cal wondered what she might have taught him. He felt like it would have been very scary. Anyways, whether it is the 4th prince or someone else, I will take care of it. Cal found the words, take care of it, to be scary but decided not to ask for details. He knew that she would take care of it properly. It was at that moment. Knock, knock, knock. He could hear a knock on the door as a black blob quickly flew in through the window. Human opened the door. Cal looked at Rayon, who was now covered in leaves and dirt, before sighing as he shouted toward the door. It was obvious who Rayon would have brought. Enter. Click. The door opened, and an existence that was even darker than Rayon walked in. Hello, young Master Nim. What a wonderful morning we have today. It was Mary, who greeted him in her robotic voice as usual. The necromancer Mary adjusted well to Harris Village. He paid a lot of attention to her at first because she just stared up at the sky both night and day, but she was doing well now. To be specific, she was playing well with the black dragon, Rayon. Human, listen. The good child and I found something. Rosalind smiled brightly and took a sip of the tea in front of her. Cal asked with a blank expression on his face. What? Did you find another interesting rock or a leaf with many holes? Rayon had shown Mary around the forest of darkness. Cal felt iffy about Mary learning about the surface world from Rayon, but let it be because it was annoying to deal with it personally. Rayon reported to Cal every time they saw an interesting rock or leaf. Cal recalled how excited he had been at first, thinking that Rayon had found some treasure. No, but it was just something pretty similar. If it was something similar to a rock or leaf, Cal thought it was probably something like dirt. He just nodded his head and pointed to a seat for Mary to sit. Mary dragged her black robe over and sat down as Rosalind offered her some snacks. Rayon continued to shout as that happened. Yes. We found some bones. Bones? There seemed to be hundreds of them. Cal turned his gaze over to Mary. There seemed to be at least 200 corpses in there. The majority of them seem to have been buried intact, as the bones are in very good condition. It seems to have happened within the last 2 years. Choi Han thinks that they were fighting and killed each other in the forest of darkness. Mary used the dead monsters or animals she found every so often in the forest of darkness to practice her necromancer abilities. Mary, however, did not use any human or elven corpses. I will need to put the bones together in order to know for sure, but it seems like it was a battle between land monsters and flying monsters. Rosalind could see that Cal's expression quickly changed and that the corner of his lips was twitching. Human, can the good child use those bones? Rosalind's expression became odd. Rayon and Mary reported everything that they found in the forest of darkness to Cal before asking if they could use it. She will use it cleanly. I promise I will not break it. Cal lifted up his teacup instead of responding to the combination of the black dragon and the black robe. He was about to take a sip of tea when he suddenly thought of something. Why didn't I think about that? He couldn't drink because the corners of his lips continued to twitch as he held back his laughter. He finally gave up drinking his tea and asked Mary, "Were the flying monster bones in good condition?" "Yes, sir. I will need to put it together and restore some broken parts, but they seem to be in a pretty good condition." "How many?" "There are fewer than the land monsters. I guess there are around 70 of them." "Size?" "They seem to be mutant monsters." "Are they the size of wyverns?" "They are a bit smaller." Mary didn't know why Cal was suddenly talking about wyverns, but she still answered properly. Cal could feel his heart beating quickly at her response. The North's Wyvern Knights Brigade. Cal had worried about how to deal with the wyverns in the future. It would cause a lot of damage to the territory if he used the attacking ancient power or magic. "Mary." "Yes, sir." "Are you thankful to me?" "I am very thankful." Mary didn't think Cal's question was odd as she answered. Her voice was emotionless, but she meant it. Even though she was not living in a human village nor at the Caro Kingdom, Cal let her go to the Hennetus estate every so often and allowed her to enjoy the beauty of the surface in a peaceful environment. She felt like she would miss the beautiful night sky, the blue sky, the vibrant natural environment, and even this house in the future. "Good. Then I'm sure you'll want to return the favor if I am in a difficult situation." Cal was smiling gently. Rosalind, who was watching this unfold, felt iffy about what Cal was saying, but the problem was that she was the only one who felt this way. "Yes, sir. I definitely want to return the favor." A bright smile was on Cal's face. "Then come to the Hennetus territory once in the future when I call for you." "Of course. I want to come back here all the time." An image was being created in Cal's mind right now. He maintained that image as he responded to Mary. "Practice with the monster bones as much as you want. However, you know you need to return them to me before you leave, right?" "Of course. I will make sure they are cleaned and return them to you before I leave." "Human, I knew you would let her use it." Rosalind was looking at him with a "what kind of deal is this?" kind of expression, but Cal was still looking at Mary, who was about to leave with Rayon. "Can a flying monster corpse fly?" "Yes, sir. However, this is my first time using flying monster bones, so I will need a lot of practice." If the North had the Wyvern Knights Brigade, Cal was imagining how he would respond in the future. A flying skeletons brigade. Isn't the name cool? Cal could feel his heart beating quickly. There was one other thing that was making him so excited about it. He suppressed his excitement as he gently added on for Mary. "Mary, let me know when you get used to working with flying monsters." "Yes, sir. I will be on my way now." "We will be back quickly, human." Mary and Rayon left the room. Cal looked at Rayon, who was flying toward the forest of darkness through the window, and started to think. A dragon should destroy wyverns, right? Cal had that adult dragon corpse on him. He had a full set of dragon bones that he had found in the forest of darkness. Cal became excited thinking about the dragon bones and flying monster bones making their grand appearance in the future. Just thinking about him made him feel happy. "Miss Rosalind." "Yes." Rosalind responded back to Cal's mischievous expression with a stoic face. She was thinking that the person in front of her was a really good person, but had a tendency to have these odd thoughts every so often. "How is the strength of the Breck Kingdom's military?" "Excuse me?" "What I am about to tell you is extremely confidential." Rosalind could see the mischievous expression slowly disappearing from Cal's face. Alberu was not the type to travel with a foreign kingdom's prince without reason, especially as someone who had to hide his identity as being a quarter dark elf. Traveling with important people from foreign kingdoms would make him need to keep his guard up. What Alberu was doing right now was probably testing out to see if the Breck Kingdom and the prince were decent. You needed to be careful about sharing important information. He was observing the Breck Kingdom's prince right now to see if he was decent enough for Alberu to initiate his plan. Although Alberu was the type to chase his own benefit, he still put the kingdom first. The three northern nations have formed an alliance. What? On the other hand, Cal was the type to put himself and his people first. He would do anything to keep them safe and sound. And this is a secret. Only a few people know about it. Young Master Cal, just what? Click. Cal put the still full teacup back on the table. But Miss Rosalind, you see. Rosalind could see that Cal was smiling. Cal was considering Rosalind to be part of his people like Locke, but she had still not forgotten about her former position. Cal was saying this for her, who escaped from the royal family, but still smiled while talking about her younger brother. Cal was speaking to Rosalind, who may have thrown away her position as a princess, but still had family in the Breck kingdom, who says that they are the only ones that can form an alliance. Rosalind's gaze quickly changed. Their tea time soon ended without any other conversation, later that evening. "Your Highness, the fourth prince is coming here. You freaking ghost, there is nothing you don't know." "Yes, it is the fourth prince." "Your Highness." Alberu, whose face appeared on the video communication device, did not look good. He was looking at Cal like he was trying to figure him out. Cal did not tell Alberu that he knew about the Northern Alliance. It had not been the right time to say it. However, it was now the right time. The three northern kingdoms have formed an alliance, right? Alberu did not respond to Cal's question and just quietly observed him. He then finally put on a gentle smile after a while. "I knew you were just pretending not to know. That's why you helped me shelter those mages from the Whipper Kingdom and with the naval base." Cal did not react to Alberu's accusations. Alberu, who seemed like he didn't expect a reaction, immediately asked back, "Then what do you think we need to do about this?" "Miss Rosalind will meet with her younger brother. I guess she knows this information as well. She is my friend." Alberu scoffed at Cal's answer before continuing to speak. "You know that maintaining this secret is the most important thing, right? That is why I didn't even tell you until now, Your Highness." Seeing Cal's sly smile made Alberu feel like there was no worse expression in the world than Cal's smile as he quickly ended the call. "Then see you next time." "Any time, Your Highness." The video communication came to an end. A carriage with the Hennetus family's golden turtle crest passed through the Hennetus castle and headed for the estate behind it. "It really feels like a festival is coming up." Cal nodded at Choi Han's statement before looking out the carriage window. The entire castle was in the process of being decorated and very lively. Even the entrance of the castle that was usually quiet was booming with a long line of people. "I have never seen so many people outside the castle like this." "He's right. Me neither." Cal could see that Choi Han was just as excited as Rayon On and Hong. This was probably Choi Han's first real festival as well. "It's my first time too. I want to stand in line too." Cal smiled at Hong's comment as he looked out the window and patted Hong's small head. The Hennetus Territories Festival had many special competitions. Some of these included the cooking competition, the art competition, the sculpting competition, and with Countess Violin leading the charge, these competitions naturally had hefty rewards. Weak human. But why are those people standing in line like that? They seem to be here to apply for a competition or take part in the preliminaries. Choi Han started to speak, as if he finally understood what was going on. "No wonder I saw a couple talented martial artists. Huh. There must be a martial arts competition as well. No. There should just be things like cooking, sculpting, and art chapter 105. Forgot about it too, martial arts." "Yes, Cal Nim." Cal had a bad feeling about this. Choi Han did not see Cal's stiff face as he stared out at the castle gates and continued to speak. "I don't know which competition they will participate in, but those two people seem very strong. I believe they will reach the finals." Choi Han's gaze was very sharp. I can't tell what their preferred weapon of choice is, but I guess you don't need to use a sword to fight. Based on one of their shoulders, it looks like their weapon of choice may be a bow." Cal looked toward Ron, who started to smile. "There's an assassin who is a servant, so who says they cannot do art or cooking?" Cal had forgotten for a moment that this was a fantasy world. This was a world where an average-looking cook was a poison specialist, and your neighbor working at the repair shop could be someone who used metal shards to brutally murder people. He had forgotten about how scary this world was. Choi Han. "Yes, Cal Nim." The Hennetus territory only has a cooking, art, and sculpting competition. Cal was curious how Choi Han would respond to this information. "Ah, I see. They must do martial arts as a hobby then." Seeing Choi Han pass it off like it was nothing made Cal think it was a very MC-like response. "Those humans are still not as strong as my front paw. Nuna, should we go win the competitions? I want to compete." You don't know how to do any of those things." After seeing the individuals next to him, Cal had no choice but to admit that this was how this world was set up to be. The carriage soon passed by the castle and into the estate. Cal asked Ron about the details. "What is the competition schedule? It would be better if the territory was filled with strong experts." Ron handed him the schedule. Cal looked it over before asking Choi-hen a question. "You remember their faces?" "Yes, Cal-nim. A Munchkin world really was amazing. Why did there have to be so many experts? This was a difficult world for a weakling like him to survive." Cal turned his gaze over to Rosalind, who was sitting in a corner of the carriage. She had not said anything since he had told her about the Northern Alliance. She seemed to be deep in thought ever since their discussion. "Young Master Cal, may I request for a meeting after I meet with my youngest brother, heir, the fourth prince?" "Of course, I will not tell my brother about the alliance right away." That was what Rosalind had said to him yesterday. Cal just told her to do whatever was easiest. Woo, oh boy. Cal could hear Hilsman's voice from the driver's seat as the carriage came to a stop. They had stopped outside the gates of the estate. Cal let out a sigh as he opened the carriage door and Rayon turned invisible. "Where are you going?" "Orabuni." His youngest sister, Lily, was standing outside the gate. The 7-year-old seemed to have spent a lot of her time outside as she was very tanned. "You seem to have been training very hard." "Yes, I've been giving it my all." Lily, who was confidently answering that she was training hard, seemed to have improved quite a bit. Since she trained enough to get really tanned like this, her skills had no choice but to improve. Cal looked at the wooden sword at Lily's waist, as well as the longer wooden sword on her back. Lily flinched at his gaze before quickly starting to speak. "The one on my back is something I made because I was curious about a long wooden sword." "Really? But the sword has many scratches on it, like you swung it down on firewood or something?" "Yes, that is it," Lily answered very respectfully as she avoided Cal's gaze. She then quickly added on, "And I have finished my night training for the day. So I am going to play. I received Mother's approval, so I am going out for 1 hour. I am only going to the alley with the restaurants nearby, so I will be safe." The 7-year-old explained the situation in detail to Cal. She must have felt guilty, even though Cal just looked at her and never asked for an explanation. "Okay, have fun, see you at dinner." Yes, sir." Cal motioned for her to go, and Lily looked back a couple times as she quickly started to run toward the restaurant alley. The staff of the estate frequently ate at the alley, so it was both cheap and clean. Cal got back on the carriage and started to think. Something is suspicious. Didn't she seem like the stereotypical youngest child of a wealthy family who found a hidden expert to serve as a master in the woods? Cal made eye contact with Ron, whose left arm still needed about 2 weeks to be completed. "Look into it." "Yes, young Master Nim." He didn't need to explain to Ron for him to understand. The sly old man who had lived in this world longer than he had seemed to be having the same suspicions as Cal. Countess Violin had probably looked into Lily already, but it was better for him to do his own investigation. Cal confirmed the details of the cooking competition before returning to the estate with the schedule in his hand. An unexpected person greeted him at the door. Basin. "Hi, young Nim. Were you waiting for me?" Basin did not respond to Cal's question. Instead, he just opened up the file in his hands and started to speak. Cal could not even walk through the door as he stood there watching what Basin was doing. "Hi, young Nim. I heard you will be staying home during the festival." "That is correct." "Would it be possible for you to present the awards for the competitions?" Cal started to smirk. The file in Basin's hands were administrative tasks for the territory. Basin was now at the level to take care of such tasks. Cal had never even touched a proper administrative file for the territory yet. This was a good sign. However, he quickly had a question. "What about Father?" "Father will be giving the opening address, but said that he was too busy to deal with all of the small competitions." "Father said that it would be great for myself, Hyung Nim, or Lily to do it." "And Mother?" "She is the commissioner, so she will be giving the commissioner's award, but you will be presenting the awards to the winners." "Why don't you do it?" Cal didn't feel like doing it. In addition, Basin needed to do it for people to remember Basin better. "I am currently busy with work for the territory." I need to show up at the competition in order to present the awards. But I do not have time right now, as I am currently learning about how to handle the administrative tasks for the territory. Cal started to smile. If Basin was busy learning about how to run the territory, it would be fine for him to give out the awards like this. Would people really remember him for such a deed? Basin needed to learn properly so that he could take care of everything in the future. All right, I will do it since you are busy. You will need to study hard in order to be responsible for half of the territory's administration in the future, since Lily is working hard to lead the military side. You are very reliable. Cal patted Basin's shoulder and cheered him on. Basin responded back with a sincere expression, as if he had made up his mind about something. Yes, Hyung Nim, please trust me and leave it to me. Of course. This territory is for you and Lily. Cal put on a happy smile for once and nodded his head. Don't push yourself too hard. I will be heading in now. He walked past Basin and headed into his chamber. His stride was both relaxed and light. Basin observed his brother's back for a bit before receiving Cal's group's greeting and heading toward the castle. Since he was not talented in martial arts like Lily was, Basin had made up his mind to learn the administrative tasks as best as possible to become an administrative expert. Basin Henitus, the 15-year-old, now had a dream. His entire family was cheering him on as well. That thought made the stoic Basin start to smile. It was a dream that would probably cause Cal to faint if he realized what was going through Basin's mind. Cal's face was full of boredom. It was even close to exhaustion. Why don't you stop with that face? You have the same expression, Your Highness. Crown Prince Alberu was looking at Cal with a similar expression. They were tired of each other after seeing each other via video every day. However, they still needed to talk to each other because there was work to be done. The fourth prince said he will take 3 of the royal knights and head to the Henitus territory. I am leaving the Empire tomorrow, so you can assume that he'll leave around the same time. Yes, sir. I will let Miss Rosalind know. The fourth prince will arrive within the next month. Tell Count Daruth as well? Yes, sir. Did his father know that Rosalind was a princess? Although Cal had never told him, he assumed Count Daruth would know because Hans knew about it. He started to think about a lot of things as Alberu continued to speak. You want to hear something funny? Not at all. He accidentally said the truth. I'll tell you anyways. But Alberu ignored his feelings, as usual. You know how the Pope of the Church of the Sun God died. Your Highness, can you talk about such a thing while in the Empire? I've already used noise cancellation magic. Did you forget who I am? Who you are? You have a ton of mages under your command. I'm sure you have a lot of magic devices as well. Cal accepted this fact and nodded his head at Alberu, who continued to speak. Once the Emperor announced the start of the festival, the Pope gave an opening address since the festival was related to the Sun God. The location for it was in front of the imperial capital's Sun God Temple. Alberu put on a bitter smile thinking about the incident. The Pope was at a platform that was lower than the Emperor yet higher than the Imperial Prince, who was next to the Emperor. It was made that way to give face to the Pope. That was not something to smile bitterly about. There was a different issue. That platform went flying. What? The temple and the platform all went flying. Cal suddenly thought about Hy's Island 5. An explosion, you're so sharp. Yes, an explosion, crazy. Cal almost said that out loud. At the same time, he was confused. He thought that the Imperial Prince would have done it, but the Imperial Prince would not do something so obvious. Also, didn't Alberu already say that the Holy Twins were the culprits? It was similar to what happened to us. The term us made Cal's expression change. The only thing Alberu could be referring to was the capital's Plaza Terror incident. The Holy Twins and individuals wearing black outfits, as well as magic bombs that were similar in strength to the ones in our capital. Are you getting a sense of it now? Cal quietly sat there with a stiff expression. Alberu continued on like he understood what Cal was thinking. I managed to live thanks to a mage's shield, but the believers in front were massacred. It was not only the Pope that was killed. I will definitely find and destroy the organization that did this. It meant that they planned to do the same thing in our kingdom. Alberu still had not forgotten about that mage. It was a different mage this time, but I will definitely find that mage and punish him. Your Highness? Yes. That mage is no longer in this world. What? He is dead. Cal avoided Alberu's gaze. Did you kill him? I didn't do it. That was the truth. Although Choi had cut off both arms and made Radhika go blind, he was not the one to kill him. That crazy swordsman was the one who killed Radhika. Ha! Cal could hear Alberu's deep sigh, but chose not to care about it. He had enough to worry about even without it. Something is fishy about the sun god twins and the magic bombs. However, he had no way to find out. It was a new incident, so he had no way to know anything about it. He also couldn't send Ron or anyone else to go find out about it. Most importantly, Cal just hoped that he would not get dragged into it. Let me know about such things in the future. Will do. Cal had no problem answering casually like this. Alberu started to get a headache. He sighed as he continued to speak. Contact me when the fourth prince arrives. The fourth prince seemed to be calm and respectful. I'm sure you'll like each other. But she said he was a total bitch and a whiner. Cal thought about Rosalind's words as he nodded his head. The two soon ended their conversation. Cal put his video communication device in his magic bag, as they would not need to chat for a while. The next day, Cal was sitting on a platform looking down. Down below was a large area with spectators sitting in a circle. Cal, who was sitting at the highest platform, opened up the paper in his hand. Is the competition starting now? Cal nodded his head at Rayon's question. A different competition would take place every day starting today. Human, will we go to the night market later too? Cal had taught Rayon about money this morning. Will you buy me everything I want to buy? Cal nodded his head. It would not be expensive to buy Rayon things from the night market. Cal could hear Rayon snickering in his head and looked down. The kittens On and Hong each had a necklace with a pouch on it. It was a pouch with their allowance. Mary, who was wearing her black robe, had a black pouch as well. Her allowance was in this pouch. I'm a really generous person sometimes. You are right. You are a very good person, human. Cal, who said something which would make Rosalind be shocked again, reached his hand out toward Choi Han and Ron. There was a piece of paper in his hand. So it is these three people? A cook, an artist, and a sculptor. Choi Han started to explain in order. A former knight, an archer, and an assassin. My goodness. Cal could not believe it. Chapter 106. Forgot about it 3. A former knight, an archer, and an assassin. Maybe I can just create my own camouflaged fighting brigade. How shocked would the enemy be if a flying skeletons brigade and a group of cooks, artists, and sculptors, who are actually experts, showed up to fight them? Cal slowly started to smile. They are all above average in ability? Yes. All 3 of them are at about Vice Captain Hilsman-Nim's level. Human, why are you smiling like that? Is there something fun? Tell me, Rayon asked, but Cal did not answer. Instead, he looked toward Ron. Choi Han was dull when it came to things like this, but Ron was not. Ron started to smile as soon as they made eye contact. Young Master Nim, isn't this territory a better place to live than you expected? Seems that way. Count Daruth was currently in the process of fortifying the castle wall ever since Cal told him about the Northern Alliance. It was a large-scale construction using Mueller's blueprints. Furthermore, his father was busy increasing the number of soldiers, as well as their skill level. Of course, he was not taxing the citizens of the territory to do that. If he was, would they all come here to celebrate like this? Count Daruth was putting his own money to work. However, it did not seem like it was enough yet. Very good. Cal leaned his body into the very soft couch. He was in a position that would make it easy for him to fall asleep. However, such a position was fitting for Cal. Yes, that man over there is the archer. The art competition was currently underway. It was more like an event than a competition, though. The artwork went through a first round of judging before the second round was conducted in public to determine the winner. The qualifiers from the first round were showing off their artwork of the stone mountain and quarry behind the Hennetus castle. There would be a winner from this event. Cal turned his gaze to the archer artist that Choi Han had pointed out. The short-haired man with a long beard jumped up and started to swing his brush in the form of an X on the easel. Not this. Why am I so terrible? How could I call such trash art? My hands are crazy. The paint flew everywhere as the man clenched his hair. I am trash. Art is not something like this? Cal started to think while looking at the painting, but it is really good. Cal looked toward Choi Han, who avoided his gaze. Choi Han could not make eye contact, but still started to speak. He is quite sensitive. He has been in the territory for the shortest amount of time, at only 3 months. They say that he built a house next to the white tree at the top of the slums, saying that it is the source of his inspiration. What is the source of his inspiration? Cal looked down to Sion and Hong meowing in laughter. The man-eating tree located in the slums where Cal had earned his first ancient power, the indestructible shield. That tree had turned white with blue leaves thanks to Cal. This isn't it. I can't show this trash to people. Cal started to speak to Ron. Let's pass on that guy. The white tree in the slums reacted to Cal because he was the owner of the indestructible shield. So, what if the tree was to react to Cal when he went to visit that archer? I may end up becoming his muse. He had a bad feeling that something like that would definitely happen. What about the sculptor? Will they come to the preliminaries tomorrow? No, Cal Nim. Then, they did not make it through. Choi Han contemplated for a moment before continuing on. They came in last place. They seem to have no talent for sculpting, but they are skilled in assassination. Ron interjected and asked Cal, Young Master Nim, should I reserve a restaurant? Yes. Cal debated whether he should go see the chef first as he leisurely watched the art competition. Of course, it didn't need to be said that he sighed at the artist archer who called himself trash before running out of the area. Orabuni? Lily's pupils were shaking. Cal just ignored this and entered the restaurant called A Place of Warmth. Welcome, young Master Cal. The son of the territory's lord had visited. It was only natural that the chef came out to respectfully greet him. The old man in his 70s was fit, but the years had definitely taken a toll on his body. Cal was shocked when he had learned about this old man, but did not find it to be weird. I will guide you to your reserved room. The restaurants in front of the castle frequently prepared a separate room for when the staff at the castle brought guests over. Cal made eye contact with the old man, who could see Cal quietly looking directly at him. Lily seemed very nervous as she looked back and forth between the chef and Cal. Finally, Cal reached his hand out to the chef. It is my honor to meet my mother's teacher. What? Lily was shocked as she looked at the chef and started to shout. Master, you are mother's teacher, master. The word she subconsciously said made Lily cover her mouth with both hands. Lily started to roll her eyes around the room while trying to figure out what to say when she saw that her brother was smiling. She was caught. It was a secret from the family? No. However, Lily did not know that Countess Violin had known about her master a long time ago. I came because I wanted to meet my mother's teacher and my sister's master. The chef remained quiet as he observed Cal, before starting to laugh. I do not deserve to be called the Countess's teacher. You flatter me. The chef, Edro, was a former captain of a knight's brigade. Cal recalled what Ron had reported about Edro. The people who have lived in this territory for more than 15 years know about this man's identity. He arrived with the Countess. Violin was from a fallen noble family. She had arrived at the Hennetus territory to trade for luxury goods while she was running a merchant guild. Edro was the one who was responsible for keeping her group safe during that trip. He was the knight captain of Violan's family, and when Violan said that she wanted to jump into the cruel world of merchants, he gave up his life as a knight and turned into a mercenary in order to protect her. He is said to be the Countess's sword instructor when she was younger. Count Daruth and even Basin were able to handle the sword, like most nobles. Violan was not an exception and knew the basics as well. He stayed here, saying that it was his dream to be a chef when the Countess married Lord Daruth. Cal, Lily, and Basin did not know about this, as it had happened more than 15 years ago. Apparently, his father had built this restaurant for Edro as well. I heard that the food here is wonderful. I came with high expectations. Cal smiled softly while Edro stiffened up a bit. There was no trash worse than this bastard. In the past, Edro had thought that he needed to teach a bastard like Cal some tough love after seeing Cal drinking and causing a ruckus. He was not one to tolerate such a rotten person. It should be up to your standards. Edro confidently answered before guiding Cal to the room. Human, enjoy the meal with your sister. Cal and Lily were in the same room while the rest of the group was in a different room. This was so that Rayon, On, and Hong could eat in peace. I will serve you. Ron followed behind Cal and made eye contact with Edro. Edro had heard from the Countess that Ron was an assassin. He was shocked at that fact, but shocked even more at the fact that Ron's skill level was so high that he could not see how strong Ron was. You sly bastard. Ha ha. Hi, Young Nim, you are the same. Edro cautiously observed the benign smile on Ron's face. He saw Lily and Cal sitting in the room and slowly closed the door. He needed to go cook. Ron followed behind him. At that moment, Edro could hear what Cal was saying to Lily. He is a talented swordsman. Learn properly. Edro looked toward Ron. Our young master is all grown up. Ron could see Cal looking at him past Edro's shoulder as Edro was closing the door. Cal did grow up well. He grew up into a very sly person. Click. The door closed completely with a quiet noise, and Ron started to say the things that were prepared in advance. Hi, Young Nim. Our young master Nim wanted to see you because of Miss Lily, but also because he wanted to meet the person who used to serve the Countess. We did not inform the Countess of our visit, so please keep it a secret for us. Ron added something extra from what Cal had told him to say. Our young master Nim seems to want to learn about his mother's life now. Edro, the old man in his 70s who sacrificed everything he had for his liege and student, started to think deeply. He could still hear Cal and Lily's conversation through the door. Lily, I believe that you will become an amazing swordsman. Thank you, Orabuni. I will become the guardian knight who protects this territory. Ahem. Edro let out a fake cough before heading toward the kitchen. Ron followed behind him while recalling what Cal had told him to do, make it so that Edro will want to step up if the territory is in danger in the future. It'll be difficult for him to be in the front lines due to his age, but having someone like him step up is bound to strike at people's hearts. Don't you agree? Cal had grown up very smart and sly. Of course, Ron liked it like this. They had set the bait for at least one person. After dinner, it was time for the second person. Honestly speaking, this was the last person since they decided to forget about the archer, Human. There are a lot of people even though it is night time. It is very bright. It is beautiful. Unlike the underground city, the things shining brightly in the dark makes my heart beat faster. Cal was wearing a brown robe while Mary, who was wearing a black robe, the invisible Rayon, and Choi Han, who was holding On and Hong in his arms, walked next to him. The busy night market was filled with people as Cal quietly walked by with his hood on. Something smells delicious. I have 10 silver coins. Buy me that chicken skewer? I will give you the money. Cal let out a sigh and turned around. Deputy Butler Hands was chasing after them. Hands. Yes, sir. Add 3 chicken skewers as well. Yes, sir. I will go buy some chicken skewers for our lovely trio. Hands had multiple bags of food in his arms. They were all things that they were going to eat back home. Cal shook his head at Hans's excitement before continuing to walk. He stopped walking in front of one of the many trinket stalls. Welcome? A shocked woman jumped up and welcomed Cal. This is serious. Cal was speechless while looking at the mysterious sculptures. He looked at the woman in front of him. This was the sculptor who they believed to be a talented assassin. She is definitely skilled. I was not able to figure out her true identity. Young Master Nim, for an assassin, half of it lies in their ability to hide their identity. He pointed to one of the sculptures. Is this a devil? The gentle woman, who seemed to be in her 40s, had a mild presence that was more like your sweet next-door neighbor. However, these sculptures were quite unique. Although he could not tell what they were, they all seemed cold and eerie. It made him think about things like devils, swords, and eternal darkness. Egu, it is a flower. It is a forsythia. Forsythia, this is shocking. Human, this is definitely not a forsythia. This was a talent of its own. Cal truly believed that as he picked up the sculpture. Cal thought it was a growling devil. You are right. It is a forsythia. I want to buy this one. Really? Yes, I want to gift this to someone special. Cal just bullshitted with whatever came to mind. This process of building a relationship really was difficult. Ahem. Human, if you really want to give it to me, I will even accept that shocking sculpture. Is this one a tiger? It is a lovely rabbit. Yes, give me this one too. The rabbit looked like the devil's guard dog. Thank you very much. No, these are wonderful sculptures. Cal picked up the two sculptures and continued to gently speak to the sculptor until the end. They are my style. I have never heard such praise before. I am so touched. The middle-aged woman's eyes were full of admiration. Cal was sure about one thing while looking at her acting this way. She really is a good actress. People would really think she was a sculptor who had no talent but loved to sculpt and be touched by her passion. He recalled what Ron had told him. It is amazing that she was not noticed until now. She is one of two things, an assassin or a spy. The results of their investigation revealed that she was not a spy. They didn't know the reason for her coming to the Hennetus territory, but she had pretended to be a sculptor here for the past 3 years. Ron said that he had never seen her before and that, even when he saw her, he was only able to tell her hidden identity because Choihan had said that she was strong. Cal received the devil rabbit and devil forsythia that the woman handed him. He took out some money from his bag and handed it to her. Egu, I do not have any change. A gold coin fell into her hand. The poor sculptor did not know what to do about it. Cal started to speak. It is my gift for all the toil you went through. You are the first to recognize my hard work. Cal slightly removed his hood while looking at the touched middle-aged woman. Cal Hennetus, the face of the territory's lord's son, was revealed. Huh? Why, young Master Nim? The sculptor became shocked and quickly tried to bow. She really was a good actress. Cal approached her and whispered in her ear. It is my gift for your struggle while being on the run. Excuse me? Isn't it hard to live in hiding? The middle-aged woman's eyes became cold. At that moment, someone appeared behind Cal. He had suddenly appeared without making a single noise. Ron, you take care of the rest. Yes, young Master Nim. Cal started to speak to the sculptor assassin who had a shocked expression on her face but a cold gaze in her eyes. A gold coin should be enough for you to stop working for today. You should have plenty of time to chat with Ron. The sculptor assassin on the run, Frisia, did not notice Ron approaching. This was someone who was able to trick her sharp assassin senses. She was shocked while looking at Ron. Cal put on a gentle smile as he continued to speak to Frisia. Isn't it difficult to run? The second person was caught as they had planned. Young Master Nim, I will take care of the rest. Cal left it to Ron, since an assassin would be best at chatting with another assassin. Ron asked Cal if he needed information. Cal naturally needed information. He had survived until now relying on information he had from reading the novel, but that was ending. He was desperate for more information about the future. He only had about 1 year or 2 at max with the information he currently had. I will pay you back for my arm and my lie. Ron said he would pay him back, even when Cal said it was not needed. Meow. Meow, On and Hong could instinctually feel that the sculptor was similar to them. Just the fact that Frisia was on the run made them like this person, who may become Ron's student or subordinate. Human, it will be difficult for my heart, but I will still accept it if you gave me both of them. The sculptures that even On and Hong found disgusting were safely moved to Rayon's treasure chest, his other dimension. A few days later, Cal put his signature on a file on the last day of the festival. Frisia? Yes, young Master Nim. I am happy to sponsor such a promising sculptor like yourself. The gentle Frisia clasped her hands together with a modest and admiring expression. Young Master Nim, although I have only been sculpting for 3 years, I will definitely become someone big in the sculpting world. Cal, Ron, and Frisia were all smiling at this nonsense. Apparently she killed the chief. Why? Their assassin guild's rule was to only take assassination jobs between nobles. However, the new chief took on a job to kidnap a young child. She called him a crazy bastard and killed him for trying to do that job before running away. Is she being chased by the guild? No. She also tried to kill the noble who commissioned the job. This sculptor was a bold one. Who is the noble? They belong to the Gashan family that oversees the southwest. He had hit the jackpot. If the southeast was touching the Whipper Kingdom, then southwest was next to the empire. This would be useful to him in the future. Frisia, I look forward to many sculptures in the future. Yes, sir. I will only bring sculptures that you will like. Ron knew that they were not really talking about sculptures. She said there are others on the run who used to follow her as well. Cal naturally responded for them to all gather here. Shouldn't he do it properly if he was going to make a camouflaged fighting brigade? Cal sent Frisia and Ron out before looking at the calendar in the study. His gaze was specifically looking at 3 weeks later. It'll come quickly. 3 weeks passed by quickly, as Cal expected. Nuna sob. Ha. Rosalind let out a sigh while the fourth prince was crying while holding Rosalind's hand. How could my sister be in such a shabby and terrible place? My sister, who is the best in the world. Why would you stay somewhere like this with nothing but rocks? Sob, staying at a lowly count's territory. Why, Sob? Cal casually picked up a cookie while listening to the fourth prince. He could see that a round water orb was on top of Rosalind's palm. He had never seen Rosalind look so angry before. Who is that crybaby? Our house is good because there are a lot of stones. What a stupid crybaby. Rayon's voice was cold. This was none other than the immature crybaby of a prince that Rosalind had mentioned. However, that prince did not even dare to look at Cal right now. By the way, human, you look as strong as my toe today. Cal had put on the dominating aura for the first time in a while in order to look at the fourth prince. A lowly count's family without any power or influence wants to serve my sister. That was the first thing the fourth prince named Pen had said when Cal went to greet him. He turned on the dominating aura from that moment on. Crunch. The sound of Cal eating his cookie could be heard throughout the room. The fourth prince avoided Cal's gaze even more. Crunch. Crunch. Cal continued to eat the cookie with a gentle expression on his face. For reference, Cal hated the immature crybaby types the most. Chapter 107. Forgot about it 4. Cal was definitely sitting in a respectful way and looked like a proper noble while eating his cookie. Crunch. Crunch. He was eating the cookie as quietly as possible in order to follow proper etiquette, but the crunching noises could still be heard throughout the room. Human, is the cookie tasty? Cal could hear Rayon gulping behind him. Your Highness, is there something you need? No, nothing. The crybaby fourth prince Pen quickly turned away from Cal. The Roan Kingdom's crown prince, Albrew Crossman, had told him that Cal was a talented and respectful person. I believe that Cal Henitus will eventually become the kingdom's treasure. However, Pen thought that it was not enough to serve his older sister, who had been the star of the Breck Kingdom. Cal seemed like a struggling noble when Pen first met him. The Henitus territory currently looked terrible as well, mainly because they were currently fortifying the castle and the castle walls. But what is this? Pen immediately noticed that Rosalind and Cal's relationship was different from what he had expected. Rosalind and Cal seemed to be at the same level. Suuab, Nuna. That fact made Pen start to cry. Nuna, why are you suffering at a place like this, Sob? Pen, there is no Nuna here to console you because you are crying. Rosalind was speaking gently with a smile on her face, but the tone of her voice was vicious. Pen, why did you come here? Because I wanted to see you. You were the pride of our kingdom, Nuna. She was beautiful, smart, and stylish. For the Breck royalty that had nothing special, Rosalind was a shining beacon. The current crown prince, Pen's older brother, was a hard worker, but he had nothing special other than his diligence. Pen did not like that. In his opinion, the only person deserving of that golden crown was this red-haired woman with red pupils in front of him. His sister was the only one. But you suddenly showed up with some weird people and destroyed everything. How can you just disappear after doing that? Rosalind flinched and looked toward Cal after hearing Pen saying that she destroyed everything. Cal, who seemed to be harder to approach than usual, had an odd smile on his face as he looked back at her. She had not told Cal about it, but Rosalind and Choi Han had blown up one of the Breck Kingdom's palaces during their trip. Sob, Nuna, I wanted to see you each and every day, but why would you stay in a lacking countryside like this with nothing but rocks? For reference, Pen and Cal are the same age. This crybaby was also 18 years old. Cal found that to be shocking, especially since a member of the royal family, who should have been instilled a sense of responsibility and dignity, was really just an immature brat. Why would the Crown Prince say that this idiot was a sincere and decent guy? Cal questioned Alberu Crossman's judge of character. Penn was continuing to flap his mouth during that time. Nuna, I took care of the palace that you destroyed. It was cleaned up, and I even restored your palace. Don't worry about the costs. I used the money allocated for my palace to take care of it. Oh, I guess he is a bit talented after all. Penn looked fine after he finally stopped crying. Nuna, there are still a lot of people waiting for you to return. This was the truth. There were many waiting for their shining star to return. You're telling me to take back the heir position that I do not even want. Are you trying to step on your older brother's dreams? Rosalind's expression became completely cold. Her younger brother, the current crown prince, did not want the position. While she was still the crown princess, he would always tell her that he wanted to help her make the Breck kingdom a good kingdom. That pure personality was the reason she felt that he was more suitable to be the future king. That was why her father and mother had respected their decisions. No, that is not what I am trying to say. But Penn could not finish what he was saying. Cal watched him and started to think. He's just a kid. He was certain about his observation after listening to what Penn said next. The fourth prince and the youngest of the 6 children looked toward Rosalind and raised his voice again. Then what are you doing in this countryside village, Nuna? I thought your dream was to be a mage. Then shouldn't you at least aim to be an archmage? It doesn't make sense for a former princess to live in a tiny territory like this as their mage. It's not like you are the liege of a magic tower or anything. Are you satisfied with being a territory's mage? His sister had originally left, saying she was going to go visit the Whipper Kingdom's magic tower. Penn could not accept the current situation of a person who had such grand aspirations. He stared right into his sister's red pupils and could see that she was thinking. At that moment, the siblings heard an indifferent voice. Who knows whether or not she will eventually become the liege of a magic tower? Rosalind slowly turned her head. Her eyes, which had been focused on Penn, reached the still relaxed man to the side. Cal added on, like he was just sharing his thoughts. I believe it is definitely possible. I don't know if it will happen for Princess Rosalind, but the Miss Rosalind that I know will definitely be capable of doing it. As a mage, Rosalind would go on to become the liege of a magic tower. She would soon reach the level of a highest-tier mage. Although this was just Cal's opinion, he thought that she was the only one who could lead the mages once the Breck Kingdom and the Roan Kingdom formed an alliance. Of course, our safety comes first. Cal was at least certain about the strength and abilities of his crew. He then added on, Miss Rosalind will continue to grow in any environment. Cal looked toward the fourth Prince Penn. The two of their eyes met and Penn's shoulders slightly flinched. Penn had felt a similar feeling as to when he had met the Imperial Prince of the Empire. Penn felt like he was becoming smaller. You not believe in Miss Rosalind? Cal's eyes seemed full of trust as he said that. In that instant, Penn was at a loss of words. Cal quietly observed this crybaby whiner of a prince. You do believe in her, right? A gentle smile was on his face as he calmly asked the question. Of course I believe in my sister. This was the only answer Penn could give, since he was the one who believed in his sister more than anyone else. Cal started to smile. Cal definitely seemed respectful to him, but Penn still felt like he was beneath Cal. Penn started to frown and subconsciously clenched his fists and started to shout to get out of this pressure-like fear. A lowly noble's son like you dares to question me about my sister? Heck, splash. Penn was drenched with water from above. The water ball that was in Rosalind's hand had exploded on top of Penn's head. Rosalind gently started to speak to her younger brother, who seemed to be lost at the sudden attack. Looks like we need to have a nice long conversation for the first time in a while. Penn, get up. Nuna, what did I do wrong for you to suddenly, ugh? Splash, an even stronger blast of water landed on Penn the moment he tried to turn around to look at Rosalind. Penn started to cough, as if water had gone down the wrong pipe. Compared to the tiny water ball that was in Rosalind's hand, Penn was completely drenched, like he had taken on a wave. I don't like him. That crybaby doesn't know how great our mage Rosalind is, and even dares to mock our house. He also looks down on you, weak human. Cal put on an awkward smile after hearing Rayon's voice in his head. I used very cold water for him to come to his senses. I did a good job. Rosalind looked toward Cal, who shrugged his shoulders. This second water bomb was much different compared to her small water ball. Penn thought his sister had done this as well and looked toward Rosalind as he coughed. Cough, ugh, Nuna, why would you? Penn, shut up. Penn shut up after seeing her cold gaze. Rosalind turned her gaze toward Cal. Penn, who turned around following her gaze, quickly looked down after feeling the unknown pressure from Cal. Young Master Cal, may I borrow the training grounds? What are you planning to do that your brother's face is turning pale at the mention of the words training grounds? I plan to spar and chat with my younger brother for the first time in a long time. Cal, naturally, played along with the gently smiling Rosalind. I will make sure it is completely empty for your sibling chat. Please have a wonderful conversation. Rosalind lightly chuckled. She knew that Cal's personality was one that would not be looking at her brother fondly right now. I feel the same way. Rosalind got up with a cold expression still on her face. However, she heard something that made her stop. Knock, knock, knock. Hands started to speak after knocking. Young Master Nim, the mage in charge of our video communication, has visited us. He says that His Highness the Crown Prince has contacted you. Cal and Rosalind made eye contact. Rosalind looked toward Penn before nodding her head. Come in. The door soon opened and the mage walked in with the video communication equipment. Hands followed in behind him. The two of them were shocked after seeing what was going on, as Penn looked like a total mess. Ooh, shall I connect you? Yes, please do. Rosalind answered and waved her hand. Penn was instantly dried up with her drying magic, and no longer looked like a wet rat. The territory's mage flinched at her magic casting abilities before quickly connecting the equipment. Alberu's face soon appeared on the screen. Thank you, Crown Prince Alberu. I was able to safely meet my sister thanks to you. I am glad. Cal admitted that the current Penn looked well-mannered and decent. I plan to stay here for a couple of days before I leave. Is that so? Alberu, who continued to chat with Penn, could see Cal standing behind Penn. Cal had a normal expression while looking at Penn, but as two peas in a pod, Alberu could tell that was not how Cal felt about Penn. Cal and Alberu made eye contact. Didn't you say he was a well-mannered prince? That was what Cal's gaze seemed to be saying to him. It seemed to be asking where he found such a useless idiot. Alberu quickly turned away from Cal. I guess he is a mess. Alberu quickly figured out that Penn was not the person to talk about their alliance. He trusted Cal's judgment. I hope that you have a wonderful stay in our own kingdom. Thank you very much. The video communication ended and Rosalind immediately addressed Penn. Change into training clothes and go to the training ground. Ha! Penn started to frown but still listened to Rosalind. I look forward to seeing you again, Your Highness. At that moment, Penn flinched at Cal's gentle words. Penn was aware of the fact that he was ill-mannered. Penn felt his back getting cold while looking at Cal, who was smiling at him. Since our territory only has rocks, the training grounds floor is made of rocks as well. We like it because it is very sturdy. Ha. Penn avoided Cal, who was happily smiling. Once he turned to the side, he could see his sister, who had a cold smile on her face. It was only then that Penn figured it out. They are similar. They traveled together because they were similar. Penn finally figured it out after seeing how Cal and Rosalind were smiling at him. He wanted to quickly get away from Cal, who gave him more pressure than even the Imperial Prince. Penn ignored everything Cal was saying as he quickly left the room. It was only then that Rosalind approached Cal. To be honest with you, I think the discussion is better suited for my first brother than Penn. She seemed to have a lot of thoughts about the alliance. She would personally need to make a move to meet the Breck Kingdom's crown prince. However, she had left her home, saying she did not need her title as princess anymore. Rosalind could not help but worry. Would it be okay for her to go back to the kingdom, Miss Rosalind? Cal quickly realized what was going on in her mind. He wanted Rosalind to personally make a move. That would increase the chance of things remaining a secret and progressing well. Do you think that it is necessary to give up on other things that are precious to you in order to achieve your dream? Rosalind looked toward Cal. He seemed confident as usual, but sometimes that confidence made him seem difficult to talk to. It was difficult for her to handle Cal today. However, right now, as she had felt many times before, she could feel the warmth deep in his heart. You can go visit your family as a mage. Not as the princess, but as a mage. Rosalind was relieved after hearing Cal's words. At that moment, Rayon became visible and appeared in front of her. He's right. You are pretty amazing as a mage. Everybody will say that you are amazing. Rosalind started to smile. I will go and come back. Of course. You have to come back home. Rosalind lightly smiled at Rayon's words before she looked toward Cal. Cal added on indifferently. It'll be even better if you bring souvenirs back with you. Rosalind couldn't help but laugh loudly after hearing, bring souvenirs back with you. She recalled what Choi Han had said to her in the past. I have a home, but I can no longer go there. However, I now have a new home. It is difficult to explain this feeling of no longer being forever alone. Rosalind felt like she now understood that feeling. A home with people who believed in her skills. Of course, I have to come back to our home with many souvenirs. Cal did not know that this was the first time she used the term home. However, he was relieved that the alliance would probably be completed without a hitch. 1 week later, Rosalind left with a completely pale pen and headed for the Breck Kingdom. Cal started to speak once they left. Let's go back. They would stay at Harris Village in the Forest of Darkness until next spring. Cal half-heartedly responded to Rayon's questions. Human, does it snow here in the winter? Probably. Then will there be a lot of flowers in the spring? Probably. As Cal had answered, Rayon would go on to see snow in the winter and flowers blooming in the spring. Time had gone by, and Cal had turned 19 years old. Young Master Nim, it is time to wake up. Ron was trying to wake Cal up. Cal was curled up underneath the blanket, with even his head covered. On and Hong, who had grown up much more, were pressing down on him with their paws. Human, you have slept for 13 hours. Are you hibernating? You are not a bear. Spring is over, so you can stop sleeping. Rayon, who looked like he grew about 10 cm, urged Cal to get up. Cal, who was rolling around the bed, answered without opening his eyes. Time goes by so quickly. It was already late spring. It was time for him to head to 10-Finger Mountain, the location of the final ancient power. Translator's note. They seem to be using the Korean process of becoming 1 year older on January 1. While Koreans celebrate birthdays, everybody gets 1 year older at the same time on January 1. Chapter 108. Scary 1. However, there were some things that he needed to confirm before leaving. It's not very comfortable. The necromancer Mary nodded her head and handed him a cushion. Cal put another cushion underneath himself as he looked forward, but the view is killer. As long as you didn't worry about the bones breaking down, that is. Human, is it fun sitting on the bones? Yes, it is fun. Rayon snickered at Cal's answer. Cal looked down at the skeleton he was sitting on. He could see the forest through the bones, and thought about how he would die if he fell from this height. Cal was currently flying on the bones of Flying Monster. Mary had restored all 72 corpses of the flying monsters and grounded up the 2 highest-grade magic stones that Cal had gifted her in order to sprinkle the magic powder over the bones. The Flying Skeletons Brigade was complete. You can control them all at once? Yes, sir. I am disappointed that I cannot have them all flying at once right now because people may see them, though. Cal was being cautious just in case. Human, the deputy butler is here. Cal could see hands waving at him. The large bone wings headed downward, and the flying skeleton that Cal and Mary were flying on slowly headed down toward the ground. Bang! Agu. Hands took a step back because of the vibrations caused by their landing. He then saw Cal's indifferent expression and quickly started to speak. The Count Nim and Mr. Mueller have contacted you. Cal quickly got off the skeleton and opened up the messages. He could quickly see the core of the messages. Both the castle walls and the ship that Mueller described with the best defense is a strong offense mentality were almost completed. We will see Rosalind soon, and Watira will arrive soon as well. Rosalind was personally handling the formation of the alliance between the Breck Kingdom and Roan Kingdom. That would be finished soon. Currently, some of the Breck Kingdom's mages had secretly gone over to see Albaru as a part of the deal. The Whale tribe said that they had something to deliver to Cal since Cal delayed his trip to the north. Witira was going to personally visit. Cal decided to move now since there were quite a few days until Witira would arrive. Is everything packed? Yes, sir. Deputy Butler Ainz answered vigorously. Cal looked toward the black robe. Mary, whose face Cal had still never seen, started to peek. It is time for me to leave as well. Yes, I am disappointed that we are not going in the same direction. Cal really was disappointed, since having Mary with him would add another strong pawn. Mary was not going to travel through the continent. Instead, she was heading back to the underground city earlier than she had said, before she would come back out. The black robe moved a bit when Cal said that he was disappointed. The robotic voice started to speak again. I will definitely come back, so please take care of my babies until my return. I will want to see this place very often. Cal's expression turned odd as he nodded with an indifferent expression. Of course. The babies Mary was talking about were the skeletons. Mary and Rayon had found many bones in the Forest of Darkness. This forest, that was filled with many different mutant monsters, was a forest of wonders for Mary. Anyways, those bones, those babies of hers, were all being stored in a cave inside the Forest of Darkness. Mary had returned the approximately 300 skeletons, her babies, to Cal. Cal turned away from the black robe whose body language seemed to be asking him to take good care of her babies, and gave an order to Ainz. Let's go right away. Cal was finally leaving Harris Village after about 9 months. Long time no see. Cal leaned back on the couch and touched the leather on the armrest. The quality of this leather is really good. I changed it to a cheaper one. Stop saying such bullshit. Cal looked toward the man who was using a shiny chandelier to light up his office. Odious Flynn, the old merchant who was in charge of the Roan Kingdom's northwestern underworld, seemed healthier and younger. Life must be good for you. Odious started to smile while looking at Cal, who was giving off the stereotypical villain vibe. Of course. Life is great since Venyan Stan is spending his entire life in prison. Cal started to smile as well. The Stan territory and the Northwest had gone through a significant amount of changes in the past 9 months. Venyan Stan was in prison. At first, Cal was told that they did not have any plans to punish him that severely. However, he was once an unofficial heir to a noble family. They had to make an example out of him. Of course, the Stan family will probably kill him off in secret. Odious was smiling while thinking about Venyan, but there was fear in his eyes as he looked toward Cal. He had gone crazy. Venyan Stan had gone crazy. He apparently vomited every time he tried to eat in the underground prison. The person who made Venyan that way was smiling in front of him right now. That person, Cal, asked Odious a question. The Marquis is losing his subordinate households one by one. Young Master Taylor Nim is very talented. Taylor announced that he would not kill his siblings once he became the official heir. At the same time, he got rid of the potential for his siblings to follow the Stan family's rule in order to try to take the position away from him. He called some priests over from the Church of the God of Death and made a vow of death with his siblings. Yes, I'm sure young Master Taylor is doing a great job. However, Odious was warier of the person in front of him. May I ask what brings you here today? Cal did not respond to Odious's question right away, and instead tapped on the armrest with his finger. After tapping the armrest for a while, Cal asked Odious a question instead of answering. You have normal routes too, right? Odious had no problem answering such a question. If you are talking about clean trades, I have a couple different ones. I do make many deals in the light as well. Is that so? The finger that was tapping at the armrest started to move. Cal took out a plaque from his pocket and placed it on the table. A golden plaque. It was a golden plaque with the Roan Kingdom's Crossman family crest on it. Odious had a shocked expression on his face, but Cal had not even stated his needs yet. Silver. Silver coins were each worth 10,000 gallons. It wasn't worth as much as a gold coin, which was worth 100,000 gallons. Bring me 200,000 silver coins. 200? Cal made it very clear for Odious, who asked back. 200,000. 200,000? Odious seemed to be oddly emphasizing the word hundred, but Cal just confidently nodded his head. Yes, 200,000. Prepare that for me. 200,000 silver coins were worth 2 billion gallons. Odious was not shocked at the value of these silver coins. Odious asked the question on his mind. It cannot be in gold? You want to bring me 200,000 gold coins? That's fine too. 200,000 gold coins would be worth 20 billion gallons. Odious wondered if he had heard correctly. The fact that Cal seemed completely relaxed made Odious think that he had heard correctly. Odious accepted the situation. It just needs to be 200,000 of something. It would be difficult to prepare 200,000 gold coins as the merchant in charge of the Northwest's underworld, but it was not impossible. However, Odious's gaze moved toward the gold plaque. He could see Cal opening the lid of the plaque in order to show the signature inside. It would be better to get caught by the Crown Prince with 2 billion than 200 billion, but 200,000 coins will be very heavy. That is not a problem. Just what are you planning to do with it? In the end, Odious could not hide his curiosity and asked. He wanted to know what Cal was going to do with 200,000 silver coins. The smile on Cal's face became brighter. His skin was very good after eating and relaxing for 9 months. You want to know? Odious quickly waved his hand in front of him. It was better to not know what the man in front of him was thinking. Not at all. It was just a reaction. I do not need to know. Okay, prepare it in the next hour. You can do it, right? 1 hour, just what, never mind. I will get it ready. Cal could see that Odious was still curious, as his eyes seemed to be asking him a question. What are you going to do with 200,000 silver coins? What was Cal planning to do? He was going to create a path made of silver coins. 1 hour later, Cal was at Odious's underground warehouse. Odious was not here, and so it was just Cal. He pointed toward the 200,000 silver coins located inside. Rayon, store it all. All right, human. Rayon gathered all of the silver coins into his alternate dimension. Cal handed 5 silver coins to Rayon, who instantly put the 200,000 silver coins away and was looking at him. Human, you are giving me some too? Yes, we need to share good things. Rayon started to smile. Rayon took out a piggy bank from his alternate dimension. Human, put it in here. Clang, clang. The 5 silver coins went into the piggy bank. Rayon was collecting the money he received as his allowance. Rayon seemed to be happy to receive money other than his usual allowance of 10 silver for the first time. Cal verified that Rayon turned invisible before opening the door to the basement. Ho! Odious looked at the empty warehouse and expressed his shock. Cal patted Odious on the shoulder to say goodbye. Where are you heading now? Never mind. I will not ask anything. A wise decision. Send Billows my regards. Cal seemed to be happy. Let him know I'm enjoying my life while throwing money around. Of course. Please have a safe journey, young Master Nim. I will. Cal smiled like a villain and left the stand territory. Odious was happy to see Cal leave. The carriage Cal was on was headed toward the tip of the Roan Kingdom's western region. It stopped at a village that was close to the unique 10-Finger Mountains. This was the closest village, but they would not reach the 10-Finger Mountains for a few more days. Young Master Nim, our lovelies seem to like this inn. Cal looked at On and Hong, who were in Hans's arms. Meow, meow. The two were very good at controlling Hans now. Cal scoffed at them before getting off the carriage. On and Hong were much bigger now. Beast people grew at the same pace, whether they were in their human form or their animal form. Normal cats would have already finished growing by now, but, as members of the cat tribe, On and Hong were still young kittens. Choi Han, Locke, Beecrox, and Ron followed behind Cal. Cal Nim, will we wait for Rosalind here? Yes. Bloke Village. As this was a village near the western border of the Roan Kingdom, it was almost the size of a city. Many tourists and merchants traveled through this village. Cal was relaxed. He was relaxed even though they were near the 10-Finger Mountains and close to the elf village. There's no way that the elves, who detest humans, would come down to Bloke Village. The elves in the novel never went to any of the human villages such as Bloke Village. They said that it was the rule of their village. They will only come down if their village is in serious trouble. That was how the elves were. This was why Cal was able to walk into the inn in a relaxed manner. I will get a room right away. Sure, take your time. The inn that On and Hong selected was clean and nice. Cal looked around the first-floor restaurant hall. There were a lot of people at the counter he was standing at, as well as around the restaurant. Most of them were merchants. Cal noticed 5 people sitting in the corner with their robes covering their faces as he slowly looked around. Cal, who was about to move his gaze away from them, noticed the food on their table. It was all vegetables, nothing else other than vegetables. Huh? Cal felt a chill down his back. Elves only ate vegetables and fruits. That feeling became worse once he heard Rayon's voice. Weak human, they don't seem to be human. Did the elf village face some serious trouble? That was what was going through Cal's mind. Would there be an elf or an elemental that had seen a dragon in the past like the dark elf mayor? Clang. One of the robed individuals dropped their fork. Their hands were shaking. Shit, they must have seen one before. Cal quickly whispered in a quiet voice so that the 5 elves in the corner could not hear. Rayon, fly around the restaurant without stopping, and don't appear, I do not know you. Sure, got it. I will do as you want, human. Cal closed his eyes. Rayon will fly around in circles inside the restaurant while remaining invisible. Bang! He opened his eyes after hearing a loud noise. The robed individual, whom Cal expected was an elf, jumped up and started to look around. Cal accepted that he had let his guard down. After resting for 9 months, he had let his guard down. Cal looked away from the 5 robed individuals. There were many people coming into the inn as well as already in the inn. This was beneficial for him. I do not know anything. The first thing to do was to play dumb. Translator's note. Author continues to refer to Mary as Black Robe because Cal hasn't seen what she looks like. Chapter 109. Scary too. Cal looked around while acting like a random passerby. What is going on? One of the other robed individuals got up to ask the robed individual that jumped up and made the chair fall down. Let me go. The original robed individual raised his voice. His voice echoed through the restaurant, and Cal thought he could see the anxiety on the individual's face through the robe. Cal looked up at the ceiling. Human, I am spinning in circles. It sounded like Rayon was going around the ceiling in circles. Cal lowered his gaze and looked around the restaurant. The dainty white hands of the individual Cal assumed to be an elf were shaking. My goodness! The individual who had probably met a dragon in the past slowly started to walk. The face that was hidden underneath the robe's hood was looking around left and right. Pow! Pow! The middle-aged elf ran into other people as he walked. What the hell? The elf ignored everything. No, it was more like he could not say anything because he was in shock. The other robed individual apologized to everyone as he chased after the first elf. Cal was nervous. Don't come over here. Cal used his peripheral vision to observe the elf. At the same time, Cal tapped Hands on the shoulder. He didn't know what Hands was talking to the innkeeper about, but the tap was his way of telling Hands to hurry it up. Human, how long do I have to spin in circles? I will keep on doing it. Rayon sounded excited. He seemed to be enjoying flying in circles. Cal ignored the now 5-year-old's excitement. The Dark Elves are related to the Crown Prince, and we are the only ones who know about their existence, so it was difficult to feign ignorance toward them. But he needed to deny it as much as possible in this situation. The novel, The Birth of a Hero, described in a single line about how much the elves revered the dragons. Nothing else needed to be said. Dark elves were probably 3 times better than regular elves when it came to dealing with dragons. A single flutter of Rayon's wings could make the elves fall over with joy. What a terrible thought. But Cal's expression slowly became stiffer. Why is he coming this way? Rayon isn't even here. Cal's heart started to beat quickly. At that moment, a welcomed voice reached Cal's ear. Young Master Nim? Hands could see a bright smile on Cal's face as he called out to him. Yes, Hands. Hands had never seen Cal looking so happy to see him. He had a bitter taste in his mouth about it, but still proceeded with what he needed to say. The good rooms are only on the 3rd floor and higher. Is that Oka? Very good. Cal's tone made it very clear that he wanted to quickly head to that room. Hands quickly turned back to talk to the innkeeper after receiving the message from Cal to make it happen quickly. Then would you like all of the special rooms on the 3rd floor? Cal could now run away and disappear to the 3rd floor as soon as Hands answered the innkeeper's question. Young Master Nim, where are you going? The 3rd floor. Cal was already walking toward the stairs to the 3rd floor. Choi Han followed behind him with an odd expression on his face. He thought Cal must be really tired as he had a stiff expression. Human, where are you going without me? You look pale. Are you sick? Should I come over? No, don't come. Please don't come. Cal cautiously shook his head before taking a step up the staircase. It was at that moment he heard something from right behind him. Ah, hey mister, are you drunk? Why do you keep bumping into people? I'm truly sorry. He is usually not like this. Yes, it was from right behind him. Cal heard something bumping behind him at the same time as the discussion. Cal clenched onto the rail of the staircase. Why is he coming to me when he has an elemental? Cal found this to be odd. The elemental should have recognized the spinning rayon, so why was the elf headed toward him? Did Rayon's scent get on him because Rayon always stuck to him? Cal quickly took another step. Excuse me. Cal could feel goosebumps on his back as the voice started to speak right behind him. Should he turn around? The thought going through his mind was one of their being surrounded by the elves praising Rayon while he could do nothing but crouch there in disbelief. Something happened while he continued to worry about it. Who are you? What do you want? Choi Han and Ron got in between the robed individual and Cal. Cal started to smile. Right. I had these guys. Cal slowly turned around. He could see the elf being blocked by Choi Han and Ron underneath the staircase. He couldn't see the unique ears of the elves, but he could see the elf's eyes underneath the slightly lifted hood. Cal looked down into those eyes and started to speak. What do you want? The elf flinched as the other elf chasing behind him grabbed his arm. Audiocy, why are you acting like this? Cal caught a glimpse of the face of the elf in the back. What the? It wasn't because the elf was extremely handsome to the point everybody else would look like pumpkins. It was because he had a Z-shaped scar by his eyes. Why is he here? It was the healer, Pendrick. He was known to be the most handsome of all elves. Cal already wanted to go home. His mind was a complicated mess. Which elf would Pendrick call an Audiocy but still travel with? It was hard to use facial features because the novel said that all elves were handsome. He would know the chief and Pendrick because they were both described in detail, but the rest of the elves could not be distinguished this way. The elf who stopped Cal did not budge at Pendrick's actuals and became chaotic as he looked toward Cal. Tha. The elf started to speak in a shaking voice. Do you believe in mana? Cal thought the elf was asking if he was religious. Cal started to laugh out of nervousness. The middle-aged elf flinched after seeing Cal's smirk. This relaxed demeanor and those cruel eyes that looked down on anything other than himself. It was the same as the great gaze of a dragon, the feeling of a dragon that is floating around in the air. There was no way a dragon would be spinning around in circles like this. The elf was certain that Cal was using his aura and spinning it in a circle to play around with the life forms in the restaurant. It was something a dragon would do. If that was the case, then there was only one person that the dragon could be. That person has the strongest scent of nature on him. There were many strong individuals in this restaurant. However, the scent of nature was different than strength. The middle-aged elf's hand started to shake. Elves were the closest to nature after dragons. That was why they were much more sensitive to mana than the dark elves. There is a scent of wind, wood, and water. A human cannot possess all of these scents at once. The middle-aged elf started to think. There was no way a human could find multiple ancient powers of different attributes. Humans would be lucky if they managed to find one in their entire life. There was only one existence that gave off such a strong scent of nature. He had to be a dragon. But he did not dare to say that out loud. Only if my elemental was with me right now. If he had his elemental that he had left back in the village, he would be able to know for sure. The middle-aged elf lamented this fact, but he could not call his elemental over. It was currently hard at work at the village in his place. However, the elf didn't know that there was a human here who did have multiple ancient powers of different attributes, but did not need any luck to find them. The owner of these ancient powers, Cal, sternly responded back. I do not believe in something like mana. A dragon would have responded that he believed in mana. However, Cal answered that he did not believe in mana. Cal looked directly into the elf's eyes and made his stance clear. The elf slowly started to look down. I will proceed as you wish. Isn't his answer weird? Cal found it odd that the elf was respectfully bowing his head. Proceed. Cal started to feel iffy about this conversation, but it was not like he could just say, I am not a dragon. I am human. Cal wondered why an elf who should have an elemental was doing this. Audiobook, what is going on? It's nothing. We just need to do what we were already doing. Isn't that obvious? Yes. Cal looked at the middle-aged elf chatting with Pendrick and started to smile. The middle-aged elf was indeed handsome. The elf looked back toward Cal as he continued to speak. We just need to quietly go about our business. Why are you saying that while looking at me? Cal was nervous and started to frown. That made the elf flinch before he bowed 90 degrees. I apologize for disturbing you. I will pretend not to know you in the future, sir. I pray that you are not upset. This is too weird. It definitely feels like he is treating me like a dragon. An elemental that has met a dragon would definitely tell this elf that I am a human. What is going on? Cal had a bitter taste in his mouth, but pretended not to know for now. Let us go our separate ways since you seem to be finished. Cal turned back around. He still looked very cold. Choi, Han, and Ron stared at the unknown robed individuals before turning around to follow Cal. Human. I will find you after spinning around for about 10 more minutes. This is fun. Rayon was now flying in a figure 8 like a bee. His speed was slowly increasing. The middle-aged elf started to feel increasingly fearful as he felt the dragon's aura start to roam around the restaurant at faster and faster speeds. Audiobook, what was that about? Nothing. Let's quickly leave. Pendrick held back his frustration and sighed. He leaned toward the middle-aged elf and quietly whispered, Guardian Night Nim, are you okay? The middle-aged elf nodded his head with a serious expression. It was disappointing, but he couldn't do anything about it. Yes, I am fine. Let's go. We need to go support the village. Yes, sir. Pendrick looked toward the table with the rest of their group with a stiff expression. The others all got up. They came to the human world but had nothing to show for it. They needed to hurry back to the village and protect it. Sorry I delayed us. Let's hurry. The elves quickly got out of the restaurant and headed toward the 10-Finger Mountains. Their village, which was located within these 10 peaks of different heights, was in danger. Early morning a few days later, Cal was climbing the 3rd peak of the 10-Finger Mountains with only Rayon by his side. Human, taking a stroll is fun. A stroll, my ass. Cal wiped the sweat off of his face as he used the sound of the wind to quickly climb the mountain. These peaks were called the 10-Finger Mountains because they resembled fingers. This meant that the 3rd and 8th peaks were the tallest. These 2 peaks were so tall that the peak was covered by the clouds and snow did not melt until the middle of summer. But that peak is melting. The final ancient power was the Fire of Destruction. Other people would not know about it yet. This ancient power would melt about half of this 3rd peak in 2 weeks. Human, it is hot. What is this? Egu, Cal groaned as he reached the top. Isn't this lava? I read about it in a book. It is hotter than the fire in the jungle. It is an interesting power. Lava appeared in front of Cal and Rayon. It was not huge, but still a decently large lava pit. Of course, this peak was not a volcano. However, this lava was melting the mountain. They could feel intense heat radiating from the fire, but Cal was feeling less of it thanks to the necklace with the fire-suppressing water, as well as the vitality of the heart. He looked at the center of the lava pit. He couldn't believe it. A golden pig sculpture was spinning in circles in the middle of the lava pit. Rayon. Cal called out to Rayon, who was staring at the interesting sight in front of him. Rayon could see Cal holding his magic bag open in front of him. What is it, human? Hand over the money. Rayon blinked a few times before putting the silver coins in Cal's bag. Cal slowly started to smile. It had been a while since he did something this refreshing without harming anyone. Showing off your wealth was best for stress relief. Ha. Cal started to laugh out loud. Human, why are you laughing? Rayon moved backward. It was not because Cal was laughing. It was odd to see Cal laughing like this, but it was nice to see. However, what Cal started to do was odd. Clang, clang, Cal grasped a fistful of silver coins and threw it into the lava. Human. Do you know how many chicken skewers? How much candy? Human, why are you doing this? Tell me if you have any issues with me. Human? Ha 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 ha. Cal was not listening to Rayon. At that moment, something weird started to happen. Ooh-woo-woo-wong. They could hear a noise as the silver coins did not melt and started to rise up from the lava to create a path. The former owner of this ancient power was a greedy and wealthy warrior. This last ancient power required money to get. It really felt nice to spend money like it was water. Ha 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 ha. Cal laughed out loud like a hero as he continued to throw silver coins in front of him and into the lava. A silver path made of money was slowly starting to form. Translator's note: Audiobook is a way to address a middle-aged man who is not related to you. Chapter 110. Scary 3. I didn't expect for someone like you to appear. Cal could hear the voice of the owner of the Fire of Destruction. The voice sounded like it was looking at a crazy person. Clang, the silver coins continued to fly like snow. Ah, this is bliss. It was even better since it was someone else's money. He would never get a chance like this again. Yes, let's throw it all. Silver coins continued to fly as Cal grabbed handfuls and threw them toward the golden pig sculpture. This can't be. I don't know how to feel. I shouldn't feel this way, but this is so refreshing to watch. The 5-year-old Rayon fell into a state of chaos. Cal didn't care as he watched the silver coins float up to create a path for him. The Fire of Destruction really couldn't be called lava or fire. It was more of a liquid flame, since the fire was in a liquid-like state. People did not earn this power the proper way in the novel. However, Cal knew the proper way to earn the power after reading about it in the novel. Why, you ask? I haven't felt this feeling in a long time. Ah, the smell of money. It was because the owner of the ancient power was crazy about money. Keep on throwing the money. I haven't seen anybody other than my crazy friend waste silver coins like this. Mew ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. Both Cal and the owner of the ancient power were laughing. Silver coins continued to fly into the lava as they laughed. Rayon took his piggy bank out of his alternate dimension and held it close. He looked back and forth between Cal and his piggy bank with a serious expression. What are you looking at? Cal looked odd as he suddenly stopped laughing and stoically stood there. A path of silver coins was shining on top of the boiling lava. That silver light meshed well with the red-haired Cal. Weak human. What? Let me know if you don't have enough. I am willing to give you my piggy bank. Cal snorted. Cal would never steal money from children. He didn't enjoy snot-filled money. Money. Let me smell more of the scent of money. Furthermore, he had 200,000 of these silver coins, courtesy of the Crown Prince. Here. Cal looked like a very benevolent person right now. The warrior, who was the former owner of the Fire of Destruction, was said to be very greedy for money. He didn't want power or fame. Living in poverty during his childhood made him want money above all else. I wanted to be able to throw money away like trash like this too. But those damn bastards stole it all. My money as well as my friend's money, those sons of bitches. You cruel bastards that treated us like slaves. The golden pig started to swear profusely. Cal did not pay any attention to it as he started to walk toward the golden pig. Ha, so annoying. Cal was now taking out entire bags of money and just pouring it in front of him as he walked. Why, you wonderful human being? The voice of the former owner was shaking. Ooh-woo-wong, Cal started to smile. The golden pig sculpture was shining even brighter now. Sizzle, a red vapor started to rise from the lava. Rayon flew up higher in order to avoid the vapor. It was vapor that had fire inside of it. Pa-at. The indestructible shield and its wings covered Cal's body. This is no better than manual labor. Cal was getting tired of this repetitive procedure. Even throwing money around got boring after a while. Cal clicked his tongue and started to pour the money even faster. He was able to soon arrive in front of the golden pig sculpture in the middle of the lava pit, as the pit was not very wide. The voice started to speak again once Cal was in front of the sculpture. I approve of you. You have the right attitude to gain this power. If it is you, if it is someone like you who is willing to throw money away like this, you will be able to overcome every obstacle in your way. The owner of the ancient power had approved of him and was telling Cal to grab the pig sculpture. However, the owner of the ancient power could only speak in disbelief after seeing Cal's next actions. Clang. Clang. Cal took out even more silver coins. So many. He was still far away from using all 200,000 silver coins. My goodness. I've never seen such a crazy person before. You must be an angel. The owner of the ancient power could not hide his admiration. The pig sculpture started to vibrate even stronger the more the owner shouted with joy. Ooh-woo-wong. The entire peak started to shake. Sizzle. Sizzle. More of the red vapor started to rise into the air and headed toward the pig sculpture. Cal did not care about any of this, as he continued to pour out all 200,000 silver coins with indifference. The owner of the ancient power was now at a loss for words. Cal straightened his back after finally pouring out all of the silver coins. He was sweating. This is hard work. Cal looked toward the shining pig sculpture as he said that. The red vapors were surrounding the golden pig sculpture. I approve of you. I debated it for a while since I felt my friend's power on you. Friend's power. Was he friends with the thief that was the owner of the sound of the wind? Cal felt like he learned something useless again. He then started to frown at the owner's next words. There really are no normal people who own ancient powers. Here you go, take it. It is the power to destroy everything. Of course, the money is mine. Oh. The ancient power started to float toward Cal. The golden pig sculpture that was surrounded by red vapor was now in front of Cal's nose. He's cheaper than I expected. He didn't know that this would happen with only 2 billion gallons. Cal slowly reached his hand out toward the golden pig sculpture. He would have powers for defending, regenerating, escaping, and attacking once he got this power. At that moment, the owner started to speak again. It's interesting that you are in the land of boulders but do not have the corresponding ancient power. Boulder? Cal flinched. To be honest with you, money isn't the only thing that I couldn't destroy. There is a boulder that I could not destroy as well. I will share this information with you since you helped me resolve my resentment. It was a hint about another ancient power. But I don't need it. Cal was fine with what he had already. He also had the fire-suppressing water and the dominating aura. There were probably no other human beings who had so many ancient powers. The king of rocks, the giant cobblestone that is known as the super rock, is in the land of boulders. Cal's expression did not seem to be good as he heard about the land of boulders, the Roan kingdom. Why did it have to be a giant cobblestone? Cal had a bad feeling about this. Cal did not respond to the ancient power who did not say anything else and just touched the golden pig sculpture. See, Izzle? Cal's hand touched the vapor, but he did not get hurt. Ooh, the tips of his fingers touched the pig sculpture. A mix of gold and red light rushed toward Cal. Use it to melt anything in your way. You will survive through the pain. The voice of the ancient power's owner slowly disappeared. Cal lifted up his shirt to see that there was now a rose-gold thunderbolt on the silver shield on his chest. Cal was relieved. It's not a pig. The pig sculpture earlier was cute, but he didn't want such a tattoo. Cal reached his hand out. Ooh, Rayon was amazed at what was happening. See, as a loud sizzle noise appeared as the silver coins disappeared into silver vapor. At the same time, the red lava sizzled and formed into an orb in front of Cal's hand. Cal clenched his hand into a fist, as if he was trying to grab the orb. Pat. The lava orb disappeared with a quiet noise. Only a wide pit was left on top of the third peak. Human, is that power from earlier yours now? I guess so. You are as strong as half of my pinky toe now. You are now a very extremely tiny amount stronger. Cal smiled after receiving Rayon's approval. A cool breeze swept past him. Now that the heat from the lava was gone, the top of this peak was returning to being cold. At that moment, Rayon approached him with his piggy bank still in his paws. But human. What? I waited to tell you this because you seem to be focusing. Rayon was smiling widely. Cal suddenly felt an ominous feeling. Why was Rayon being like this? Rayon casually added on. The magic spearman is nearby. Who? Cal temporarily forgot who it was. He just arrived recently. I can sense his location. Ah, Cal remembered the magic spearman of the secret organization. They had met at Ainz Island 12. The magic spearman had been marked by Rayon's mana arrow before he ran away with the blonde sword master. Why would he be here? Rayon was stronger after becoming a year older, but he still had short, stubby legs. One of those short legs pointed toward the spot between the 7th and 8th peaks. I can feel him over there. Cal covered his face with both hands. There was a village hidden by illusion magic between the 7th and 8th peaks. Naturally, it was the elf village. It was said to be similar to a fairy tale land, with a small lake and trees that were hundreds of years old. Now what? As expected, this incident was not described in the first 5 volumes of The Birth of a Hero. Cal felt like he knew the people that put the elf village in enough danger for 5 elves to come to a human village. Would the magic spearmen have come for no reason? The elves must be fighting against Arm right now. Rayon then added on. Oh, and the dude from last time is coming. Last time. Cal lowered the hands covering his face. He had seen so many people that he didn't know who Rayon was talking about. He is coming very fast. He's already close to the peak. I am hiding. Cal wished Rayon would tell him things like this faster. Rayon was staying quiet in order to not interrupt Cal while he was getting an ancient power, but this was more important to Cal. He had a bad feeling he knew who it was now. It always happened like this. Rustle. Cal could hear the sound of someone approaching. He couldn't help but sigh as he slowly turned around. Cal was standing in the middle of the pit as he looked up at the individual that arrived. I remember there was. The visitor looked around in shock. He had seen lava here a few days ago. This extra issue was annoying while they were dealing with a major headache, but he had seen some hope within that power. The man who was looking around made eye contact with Cal. Cal's red hair made it seem like the lava had disappeared and turned into a person. Why, you are. The visitor, Pendrick the healer, remembered the red-haired man in front of him. He was the person the Guardian Knight had stopped in the restaurant. Who is that man? Why did you stop him? I am not certain either. It is better for us to not know that, Senior. It was the first time that the Guardian Knight had said something like that about a human. Pendrick stopped talking after seeing the indifference in the man's face. In contrast, the man who was standing tall in the middle of the pit started to speak. It was a cold voice. Who are you? Do you know me? Cal was feigning ignorance more than ever.